I denied my in-laws' only request for the wedding and now it's ruining our relationship with them. I need some advice on this situation from an unbiased source. Me 23 female and my fiancé 27 male are getting married in December. We got engaged in April and I pretty much did all the planning myself with the help of my mom in the first few weeks. From the very beginning my fiancé and I had a plan laid out for the bridal party. That was one of the first things decided since before I had the ring on my finger. Including flower girls and ring bearers. We decided that the flower girl would be my sister who's also my matron of honor's baby who will be pushed in a stroller down the aisle by my 10F cousin who would be considered a junior bridesmaid. For the ring bearers my fiancé really wanted to include his best friend's son. For context his friend has not had custody of his child for most of his life-long story and it could be a little difficult to arrange his attendance. He will be around a year and a half at the time of the wedding. As a result we decided that we would also have my 2 cousins 5 male and 7 male, the brothers of the junior bridesmaid be ring bearers as well. This way it's no pressure on the friend and everything will go smoothly whether his child can come or not. The older boys will help the younger boy walk down the aisle holding his hands. We decided on these specific children because they are closely related / close to us and are the right age. Shortly after the engagement, I asked my sister and my cousin the moms of the children if their kids could be in the wedding and gave details of what they should wear etc. The kids and parents both were so excited. This was great and everything was going according to plan until a few weeks ago when my mother-in-law asked us if we would consider adding another flower girl. For context, my fiancé's brother best man 24 male lives across the country from us and has recently told us around 4 months ago that he has a new girlfriend 21 female. This girlfriend has a child from a previous relationship female 10 months. They have now known each other about 7 or 8 months. He is very serious about her and we are very happy for them. He has taken a sort of father role in her daughter's life which is adorable. He is expressing interest in marrying her in the future but they are taking it slow. My fiancé and I have never met this girlfriend or her child, but we are thrilled for his brother so we of course invited them both to the wedding. Now this is where things get a little messy. I have always gotten along great with my fiancé's family. They have always been so sweet, kind, accepting, and well-meaning. They welcome newcomers with open arms including me and have really become my family. I especially had a great relationship with my mother-in-law. She is the sweetest lady and would do anything for me and any one of her children. She lives very close to us and my family lives far. She was always the first to say that it's our wedding, meaning mine and my fiancé, to encourage me to make my own decisions in wedding planning and not let my mother sway them. She has become like a mother to me in so many ways. With that being said they are also very loving and accepting of my fiancé's brother's girlfriend and her baby from afar. Which is great. I'm so glad that they are so supportive. They even started calling her baby their first grandchild and flew across the country to meet them. With this context in mind, a couple weeks ago when my mother-in-law and I were hanging out just the two of us, she asked me if I would consider adding the girlfriend's baby as a flower girl. She said fiancé's brother keeps bringing it up and that it would be really cute. I politely told her that we already had a flower girl, my niece, and a junior bridesmaid assigned to push her in a carriage. She responded by saying essentially, what's one more? She will probably be able to walk by herself down the aisle by then. 14 to 15 months. I kind of just said I would think about it with my fiancé and changed the subject. Later on I told my fiancé about it and we both agreed that it wasn't a good idea because 1. We already had the role filled and it would be sort of awkward to have a baby randomly walking next to the stroller with the other baby. 2. If she needed help walking it wouldn't be easy for the 10-year-old to juggle 2 kids down an aisle. 3. We have never met her and she might not be comfortable walking down the aisle of a wedding where she knows nobody. And 4. They aren't married and worst case scenario if they break up she's in all the pictures. I know that sounds harsh but I come from a family where traditionally if you're not engaged you don't get a +1 no matter who you are. I am not following this rule and everyone's significant other is invited but that doesn't mean they get to be in the wedding. My fiancé and I were on the same page about this. We agreed to keep the bridal party the way it was. He talked to his brother and essentially told him it was a no and everything was fine and everyone was on the same page until the other night. We were at mother-in-law's house again but this time my fiancé was there too. Once again Mil brings up the flower girl thing and my fiancé tells her that we already have the position filled and that's that. But then my Mil tells my fiancé how much it must mean to his brother since he keeps bringing it up. This brings out the empathy in my fiancé and he starts to have an open mind about it. Meanwhile I'm still against it. And I start to say so with some of the reasons I listed above. My MIL points out that all of the children in the wedding are from my side except one and that their side doesn't have any representation. Meanwhile, this is because there are no children on his side. She also points out that there are 3 little boys in the wedding and why can't there be 3 little girls. At this point she's convinced my fiancé and I'm an island. I'm still defending my position alone. She wasn't being rude or anything, but every reason I have she seemed to have a rebuttal. She's saying things like they will get married one day anyways and she's already part of the family. Then I start saying we will think about it. And she is like, so that sounds like a no, and I was like, we will consider it. It was awkward and I was about to like cry, so I changed the subject. The whole time I felt like I looked like a major asshole. It was really bad. My fiancé since apologized to me for being open to the idea in front of his mother when we had decided against it. From what he believed about his mother, he figured that she would just have an open conversation with us and not try to push her way. I figured it would not go that way. Later that night he called his brother and told him it was for sure no, and we had already asked other people. His brother was sad but understood. I felt really bad and guilty for making my fiancé feel bad. In hindsight I really should not have because of what followed afterwards. This is where my previous post left off. A lot has happened in the last few days. I was worried immediately after that conversation that his mother would tell his brother that my fiancé was for it and I was against it while we were at her place. My fiancé said that he knows his mother well and that she wouldn't do that. That next morning his brother calls him wanting to talk. The first words out of his mouth are, after our conversation last night I talked to mom and she said that you were wanting to have her as the flower girl and your fiancé me wasn't just as I thought would happen. And he goes on to say, as your brother I want to make sure that you get what you want since it's your wedding. I was pissed. My fiancé told him that we would still talk about it but that we had already agreed not to have her as the flower girl and that he should not have seemed so open to it last night. That whole day we discussed it. I felt like an asshole and was tempted to cave to keep the peace, but the only reason my fiancé was wanting it was because it meant a lot to his brother. But the conclusion we came to was that it's not his brother's wedding. So we called him up a few hours later and told him no for the 3rd time. He was upset, but at least it was over, or so we thought. He texted him the next morning again expressing how hurt he was by it, but at that point we were like, the decision is made. It's our wedding, please get over it. And then my fiancé's brother enlisted their mother. She calls my fiancé and basically attacks him for almost an hour on the phone. My fiancé did a great job of sticking up for us and sticking to his guns. His mom went as far as to say that my relationships with his whole family will forever be affected by this decision. That one hurt. And that my fiancé's relationship with his brother will forever be altered. At this point this is all going way too far. We ended up talking to my fiancé's sister and found out that his brother no longer wants to be best man anymore and that neither of them want to speak to us for a while. They said that this won't be resolved until we give in. I'm at a loss for words. This doesn't even feel like a real situation, to be honest. I feel like I'm in the twilight zone. We are definitely not going to give in. At this point all that it would tell them is that if they push hard enough they can manipulate us. It just really hurts because we had such a great relationship before this. TLDR, my fiancé's brother and mother are trying to manipulate and force us to have brother-in-law's girlfriend's daughter as a flower girl. Brother-in-law is not the biological father of this child and we have never met this child or her mother. They have also only been together for 8 months. We have said no repeatedly and they are personally offended and now won't talk to us. Comments. Commenter 1. Your Mill and Bill are being crazy, but your fiancé really messed this one up by waffling about it in front of his mother and making you look like Bridezilla. None of this would have been an issue if he didn't do that. Commenter 2. Most of this is fiancé's fault, unfortunately. The family are being extremely pushy and inappropriate, but he allowed them to do that by giving them room. He should have said, okay mom, we'll have a think. Instead he left OP out to dry and now everybody thinks it's her fault. He should not have given an inch without discussing it with OP privately. Now he needs to sit his brother and mother down and tell them that they as the wedding couple together do not want any more flower girls. ABD, that this is not up for debate. If you can think of another role for this girl I might consider it, but I am not sure if would capitulate at this point. Honestly, I'd be tempted to just scrap children in the wedding party altogether if it was me. If grown-ups can't be trusted to keep their opinions to themselves, then maybe that's the easiest option. Commenter 3. I literally have no idea who ended up being ring bearers and flower girls in my wedding and which ones walked down the aisle and which ones didn't lol. Commenter 4. I've been married 7 years and I just found out last week that one of my flower girls aged 15 months at the time had a huge meltdown halfway down and the best man her uncle had to come pick her up and walk her down. And everyone chuckled because it was adorable. It didn't matter. Update. Wow. As a new Reddit poster I'm absolutely shocked by how many views and comments this post got. Was not expecting for people to actually reply. Thank you for those of you that gave great advice and were trying to help the situation. Your insight really opened our eyes, mine and my fiancé. A lot of you hit the nail on the head. Brother-in-law is the golden child and has always been favored greatly over my fiancé by their mother. Bil is the youngest and his mother has been coddling him his whole life. My fiancé is the oldest and tends to be the peacemaker/sacrificed. A lot of you also called out the triangulation manipulation. I told my fiancé this and he said that his younger brother often would rope his mom into their arguments, get her to take his side, and get my fiancé in trouble no matter how ridiculous or wrong brother was being. He mastered the art of triangulation manipulation from a young age. My fiancé would just take it and apologize to keep the peace. For those of you who said it's ridiculous to have a child we have never met and are not related to and have not even met her mother as such an important part of our wedding party, thank you. I was feeling like the crazy one for thinking this. Also info, I was being gracious when I said they have been together 8 months. They have known each other 8 months and only been dating officially for 4 months. The wedding is further away than the length of their whole relationship. It's bizarre that they are pushing so hard for this. For those who said we should have granted their request and just kept the peace, my fiancé has been doing this his entire life with this family. That is probably why they resorted to their usual manipulation tactics. He never actually wanted to have this baby in our wedding. He in fact thought it was pretty ridiculous of them to ask. He was just ready to cave because he always does to keep the family peace. At the expense of himself and his needs/wants every time. Except the difference is, this time the wedding is about him. It's his day and not his brother. Well, both of us. And that's the other thing. He has me this time to stand up for him and what he actually wanted I also wanted it too, which helps lol. On to the update, a lot has happened. Today my fiancé went to see his dad, and then his mom. They are separated. His dad is neutral but has been sticking up for me in this whole thing. I have a great relationship with him. He filled us in on a lot. Here is essentially what has been happening. Turns out brother-in-law's girlfriend has more to do with this than we thought, as some of you suggested in the comments. She is the one who has been encouraging him to push for this because it means a lot to him. And been super offended and making a big deal about us saying no. Personally, if it was me I would never ask someone if my kid could be in their wedding. Even if it's family. But forcing it on strangers is wild. My fiancé found out from talking to his dad that my mother-in-law and brother-in-law are spreading a whole bunch of lies. Here is what has all unfolded. Mother-in-law is telling people I'm racist and that's why I didn't want the baby in it. Apparently the baby and mother are Filipino, which I honestly didn't even know because once again I've never met them. They live across the country. I don't even know their last name, but still I don't care what race they are in the slightest. The girlfriend now believes this and doesn't even want to come to the wedding anymore. That's her choice. Also, the wedding party is diverse ethnicities, so how is it that I'm racist? LOL. Brother-in-law is telling people that we are judging the girlfriend and don't want her child in the wedding because she was born out of wedlock, which is ridiculous. 2 of the children who are already in the wedding were born out of wedlock. 1 from each side. They have been talking behind our backs, gossiping, making up lies about me, and assuming things about me that are not true. Brother-in-law is twisting and changing my fiancé's words into complete lies that make him seem like the victim. He is feeding these lies of things my fiancé did not say to not only his mother, but his sister and his dad. My sister-in-law and father-in-law are both neutral and won't take sides but think that this whole thing is insane and want it to end. We do too. They both see that they are doing this whole thing and hate me for no reason. So today my fiancé went to see his mother to essentially call her out for her behavior. She was absolutely hysterical and was not ready to listen to reason or logic. She deflected and denied. And lied about things we knew were in fact true. She refused to take accountability or any sort of blame for the situation getting out of hand. She just deferred back to blaming me for everything and making me the villain and herself and her precious baby son Bil the victim. Meanwhile, the last time I spoke to either of them was when we had that conversation with mother-in-law at her house where my fiancé slipped and this whole thing started. My fiancé has been handling this whole thing and even trying to shield me from the blame and take it all for himself. It's not working. Mother-in-law and brother-in-law have made this whole thing up in their heads and driven themselves and everyone else crazy over it. Meanwhile, all I've done is express my concerns for having a child in the wedding that we don't know in that initial conversation when they aren't engaged or married. And the fact that we already filled the roles. She denies favoring brother-in-law and claims that she is hurt by the accusation and then in the same breath favors him and defends him. I feel the worst for my fiancé because he doesn't even want anything to do with them anymore and does not feel the need to keep up with these relationships. He said that his mother expected him to fall on his face today and apologize for everything because that is what he was forced to do growing up and that's what they are used to. But now that I'm an extension of him, he is not letting me/us get treated this way. He is angry that they are selfishly trying to use our day to make some grand gesture to his brother's girlfriend he's been dating for 4 months and that they refuse to respect our wishes. He is shocked and disappointed that they are lying about us and creating drama around our wedding. He is saying goodbye to this toxic cycle and going to go no contact until they come to their senses and fix this mess. For those of you who asked, we are in premarital counseling with our pastor who is also our officiate. He was bewildered that they even requested this in the first place and shocked and dismayed that they have turned it into such an ordeal. Anyways, this wasn't the update we hoped for, but it's the one we have. Hopefully one day things will turn around. We are hoping mother-in-law at least comes to her senses considering we are the only family that lives near her. Maybe she will learn to support the son and daughter-in-law who will one day birth the grandkid she actually has a shot of seeing regularly, rather than blatantly favoring the son and girlfriend who live across the country. But for the time being this is it. Comments. Commenter 1. Maybe she will learn to support the son and daughter-in-law who will one day birth the grandkid she actually has a shot of seeing regularly. This woman has called you all sorts of terrible things, made up lie after lie about you. She treats your fiancé like scum. You're having to password-proof and security guard your wedding because of her. Why would you ever, for any reason, let her around your future children? She'll treat them like she treats your fiancé and let them know how horrible you are. Their visits with grandma will be filled with stories about how horribly Uncle Perfect was treated, how racist you were for not letting Cousin Perfect be in the wedding if, of course, he's still with his girlfriend, how sad she is and how you made her sad. As soon as BL has a kid, she'll be too busy with the child from her golden child to even pay attention to your children anymore. Why would you subject your children to that? Reply, oh God, you might be right. Never thought of this, but she totally would. She did this with her own kids against her own husband. Commenter 2. NTA and great job supporting your man in a way that's helping him grow a shiny new steel spine. He did amazing. Let him know this internet stranger is so proud of him for shutting that down immediately and completely. Commenter 3. Tell FIL and SIL that by not taking sides, they are in fact taking sides. Just not yours. Reply, actually I would argue if anything they are taking our side but just not rocking the boat with MIL and BIL. They both said their piece defending us and when MIL and BAL rebutted with a ridiculous argument, they just changed the subject and avoid the wedding topic altogether. They are doing this to try to stop the family drama rather than fan the flames. Stories number 2. AITA for not allowing my oldest daughter to use my home as her wedding venue because her mother and her family will be invited. I had a restraining order against them until recently. I'm in a pretty bad situation right now. When my stepdaughter got married 2 years ago, she used our home as the wedding venue. We have a meadow in our backyard that is able to accommodate a large number of people, as well as an empty clean barn that can be set up for dinner tables. My daughter was supposed to marry at another location last year but because of the pandemic, the venue shut down permanently. She's now asked to use my home for the wedding but I told her my issues with that. I had a restraining order against her mother, my ex, and a few members of her family after threats and harassment were directed towards my wife and myself. The restraining order expired mid-last year but we haven't heard from them since but I stayed firm in my decision. This has upset my daughter greatly and she's screamed at me which she's never done. I offered to give her $15,000 for an alternative venue but now she's adamant about it being our home. I feel extremely uncomfortable giving my ex and her family access to my home because that's where the washrooms will be. My daughter has put this issue on Facebook and I now have all of my extended family against me. This has also stirred up my ex and her family against me. And worse is that my wife and stepdaughter are now being accused of trying to ruin my daughter's wedding when they haven't played any part in it. I'm planning on giving in and letting my daughter use our home for the wedding later this year. But I'm going to tell my wife and stepdaughter not to be around for it. Which I'm sure is going to create a bunch of other issues. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NTA. Go renew the restraining order if your ex and her family are harassing you, and explain to your daughter that she can either have the wedding at your home without her mother and her side of the family, or she can accept the $15,000 and have it elsewhere, but for personal safety reasons you will not let her mother into your home. Otherwise, rent portapoties. They have some super fancy ones for wedding venues. Trailers don't look or smell like portapoties, with a washroom. Reply: I won't be renewing the order because I don't have any real standing this time. I also don't want to renew it because I do want to attend my daughter's wedding without causing any issues. But the outdoor bathrooms are an excellent idea. I have texted the idea to my daughter. Commenter 2, NTA. But how is it that you raised your presumably adult daughter in such a way that when you don't give her what she wants, she screams at you and goes after you on Facebook? And why do you now think the right thing to do is to give in to her antics by letting her do the wedding at your house? After all, my own daughter just got married and I provided financial support. If she had screamed at me about anything related to the wedding, you can be sure that financial support would have been withdrawn. Reply: my daughter has never raised her voice at me, but I can only imagine that other family members are riling her up. She also posted something on Facebook that didn't explicitly blame me, but my own sister made it into a circus that involved my ex and her family. I feel badly that my daughter is put under all this stress due to my ex and my issues. Update to my post. I messaged my daughter about the outdoor trailer bathrooms and she has refused and said it was a disgusting idea. She then accused me of treating her worse than my stepdaughter and that I play favorites and that I'm a terrible father. She does not want the wedding at our home anymore and hung up. She is no longer picking up my calls. I got an angry call from my mother who says she is hosting her wedding instead. And that I will not be welcomed at the wedding. My father will be walking my daughter down the aisle instead of me. Thanks everyone for the advice. I appreciate it. But I feel like I've made the biggest mistake of my life. I'm completely heartbroken. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA. I'm constantly baffled by the massive levels of entitlement and self-centeredness people show. All your daughter cares about is that she gets her due, which is your home location as a venue. She shows zero empathy or feelings or care about the fact that you actually had such a bad falling out with your ex-wife that you had to take a restraining order. You didn't make the biggest mistake of your life at all. Your concerns were very reasonable. Your daughter was the one who behaved like an absolute self-centered brat with no consideration for anyone else, including her parents. On top of it, she took it nuclear by sharing it with the world and washing dirty linen in public. You did nothing wrong here. All this did was reveal the true character of your kid. That's the sad part. Thing is, it would have come out sooner or later, so you're better off it came out now instead of later. Reply: I was always very close to my daughter and she's had to deal with a lot of issues because of my issues with my ex. But she's always remained sweet to me and has never asked anything from me. But in hindsight, I can see why she has finally reached her limit with dealing my issues. I'm absolutely gutted that she's reached this point with me. I really should have just sucked it up for one night. But I know that things are just going to get much worse because my stepdaughter's husband works for my father. But my parents favor my daughter. So I only know this is going to get worse and I'm feeling very fearful over what's going to come. Update: my daughter's wedding took place in October last year. After a few months of my daughter refusing to talk to me, my wife saw how I was being affected by the situation and said I should just let my daughter use our home without any restrictions. That we should lock up our valuables and hope for the best. I was extremely hesitant, but at my wife's insistence, I arranged a meeting at my mother's home and made the offer. I was immediately told that it was too late and that the new invitations were already sent out and the wedding would be happening at my mother's property. But my daughter asked for the $15,000 I originally offered for an alternative venue to be used to renovate my mother's home a little for the wedding. I just accepted that this was the best it was going to get and gave her the money. My daughter still didn't warm up to me after this and would only reply to texts occasionally. Then a month before the wedding, I was told to come to the wedding without my wife. My daughter said that similar to how my wife and I felt, her mother and some members of her maternal family felt uncomfortable being around us due to the expired restraining order. She said she was willing to fight them to have her father at the wedding. But my wife, stepdaughter, and her husband were not invited. I was incredibly disappointed. I wanted to confront my daughter and potentially not go to the wedding at all if my wife wasn't invited. But my wife said that there's too much bad blood and I should just attend the wedding quietly for my daughter's sake. I ended up attending the wedding alone and left once dinner was done. While I got to see my daughter get married, my heart feels heavy that it was such a conflict-filled situation. Even having me walking her down the aisle became such a touchy subject that she just ended up having her half-brother walk her down the aisle instead. When I went to congratulate my daughter before I left, she angrily told me that she should have just eloped because of me and my ex. And that it's disgusting that her own parents ruined every aspect of her wedding. That she can't wait to build a life separate from everyone. I apologized and cried on my way home. A part of me is happy that my daughter's still somewhat talking to me. But I do regret putting her under so much stress. It's not her fault her parents can't get along. I'm just hopeful that we can slowly start repairing our relationship. Final comments. Commenter 1. I am sorry about the whole situation. You didn't do anything wrong and your daughter sounds very selfish. From what I've read, you and your ex did not ruin her wedding. She was fixated on using your house and after you said no, she decided to just blame every bad thing on you. I also think her not allowing your wife to attend was unreasonable. You didn't want your ex and her family at your house. They decided they didn't want your wife and family at your mother's house. I know you're hopeful about repairing the relationship but it doesn't sound like she wants it. Be careful if she does reach out in the future that she's not just doing it to use you for money or similar. Reply. I really don't think it's about money since my parents and her new husband are well off. She just thinks I treat her worse than my stepdaughter after the whole venue situation and I hate she feels that way. Even after I've tried to explain my reasoning, and she's definitely been caught between my and her mother's issues. It's not her fault that her mother escalated it to the point of us needing to file restraining orders. It's just been a highly stressful situation and I feel very badly that I played a part in making her wedding not a completely happy event. She does seem to be open to replying to my texts occasionally so I'm hoping with time she'll warm up to me again. Commenter 3. But my wife said that there's too much bad blood and I should just attend the wedding quietly for my daughter's sake. That is very mature of your wife. Reply. She is an incredible person, but the really unfortunate part out of this whole situation has been the fallout that my wife and stepdaughter have to deal with. There's members of my family who think my wife played a part in not having our home made available for my daughter. Even though I've repeatedly told them that she in fact pushed to let the wedding happen at our home. Even worse is that both my daughter and my stepdaughter's husband worked for my father. My son-in-law had to change companies because of how awkward the entire situation was since my father was fully supporting my daughter. So my stepdaughter ended up moving 2 hours away which has upset my wife greatly. I just keep thinking that if maybe we just sucked it up for one day and just let the wedding happen at our home in the first place, we wouldn't be in this terrible situation. Commenter 4. I'm very confused about why your own parents and sister are on your daughter's/her mom's side in this situation. Is there information being left out? Regardless, I am sorry to hear about what you're going through. I hope things work out for the better with you and your daughter. Reply. My parents despise my ex as much as I do, if not more. They contemplated getting a protection order against my ex at one point too. But they compensate by favoring my daughter to the extreme. My sister is miserable and likes to gossip with my ex. My parents and I do not have a relationship with my sister. She wasn't invited to the wedding. My mother is of the mindset that my daughter should come first over everybody because her parents are divorced. I don't feel that's a healthy way to raise someone. But I can only control my actions. It's just dysfunctional family dynamics all around. Stories number 3. Aita for not giving my sister and her boyfriend my apartment keys while I was out of town. I went on a 5-day work trip last month. Before I left, my sister asked if she and her boyfriend could stay at my place during that time because it's closer to his new job. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment near the city, and they live with our parents in the suburbs. I said no. My place has a lot of personal stuff, and I just don't feel comfortable with people staying there when I'm not home, even if it's family. Plus, I don't know her boyfriend that well, and they're not exactly the clean up after themselves type. I didn't make a big deal about it. I just said it wouldn't work and left it at that. When I got back, my sister was cold with me and later said I don't trust her and that I made her feel like some random stranger. I explained that I value my space and privacy, and it wasn't personal, I just don't like the idea of anyone staying in my home while I'm gone. Now my parents are involved, saying I could have just helped them out for a few days, especially since her boyfriend is trying to get on his feet. But I don't see why that has to involve my apartment. Am I the asshole for saying no? Comments. Commenter 1. NTA and your place, you and only you get to decide who stays and who gets to be invited. Boyfriend is getting enough help from your parents giving him a place to stay, you don't also need to enable them. Commenter 2. They 100% would have fucked on her bed. I bet they wanted a night where they didn't have to be super quiet because her parents were in the house. Commenter 3. NTA. They would most likely be sleeping on your bed doing Lord knows what. Stories number 4. Aita for leaving mid-date when he joked about women not needing careers. I'm 30, I work full-time as a dental assistant, and I've been pretty independent my whole life. I don't come from money, I've worked since I was 17, and honestly I'm proud of being able to take care of myself. So when this guy I met through a coworker asked me out, I was excited. He seemed funny, chill, had his stuff together or so I thought. The first 10 minutes of the date were fine. Then we got on the topic of work and I said something about saving up to open my own small practice one day. He literally laughed and said, "Careers are just a phase for women. You'll get over it when the right guy comes along." I paused and asked if he was joking. He grinned and said, "You know I'm right, most women just work until they find someone to take care of them. Nothing wrong with that, it's biology." I was stunned. I asked him what exactly he thought I'd do until then, just play pretend with my job. He said, "I'm just saying, once you have kids you'll see. You'll want to stay home. It's natural." I wish I could say I clapped back with something clever, but I just stood up, said okay, yeah, no, and left. Later, my coworker who set us up told me I could have at least finished the meal or taken the joke. She said I was probably being too sensitive and that he's actually a nice guy. But honestly, I didn't feel like he was joking. He was so confident, like I should be flattered that he saw me as a future stay-at-home wife. I just didn't expect it to show up on a first date like that. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. If a man jokes about your whole career being a phase 10 minutes into the date, he's not joking, he's testing how much BS you'll tolerate. That biology line made my skin crawl. Imagine hearing that while trying to eat. You did the right thing walking out. Reply. I knew right then I wasn't gonna sit through a whole dinner with someone who thinks women's goals are just a cute little phase. Had to leave. Commenter 2. Hell no, NTA, he's an asshole. And your friend is an idiot. Reply. I left feeling crazy for walking out, but I knew I wasn't gonna sit there and laugh along with that nonsense. Commenter 3. Definitely not the asshole, but he sure is. You did the right thing. No need to stay and be polite to someone like that. Your coworker is wrong. Reply. I left the second he said that, wasn't about to waste my time being polite to someone who clearly doesn't respect women. Stories number 5. Aita for storming out of my dad's wedding because he mentioned my brother and sister and his stepdaughters but not me. I'm 16, am adopted. My siblings are my parents' bio kids. They're 13 and 11. 7 years ago my parents divorced. It was never explained why, but I always noticed that dad was bitter toward mom while mom hid how she felt really well. I did hear a fight between them once where she called him a POS who didn't deserve his kids. At the time it didn't make sense, but it makes more sense now. My dad got remarried a month ago. His wife has 2 daughters 5 and 6 with her first husband who died. When everyone was eating, dad got up and started to make this long speech about how happy he was with his wife and how blessed they were with their family. He called her an amazing mom and woman and all that fluffy stuff. Then he thanked her daughters for being amazing and he told them he couldn't wait to be their dad for real and how much he already loved them. Then he thanked his kids but only named my brother and sister. He didn't say a single thing about me. He gushed about my siblings, about his wife's girls. Then he told everyone how the family and named everyone except me was starting fresh from that day forward. How they were lucky to have such great kids. His speech wasn't over before I stormed out of the wedding. I called mom and told her I needed her to come and pick me up and not ask questions because I just needed her. My brother followed me out and so did some of dad's family. My brother asked me if I was okay. The rest of the family asked why I made a scene, and when I pointed out the speech they said it was an oversight and I was included every time he said kids, and so what if he left out my name, it wasn't the end of the world. I told them it was only my name. My brother tried to say something to dad's family but they told him to go back inside and celebrate and not to make more of a scene at the wedding. They tried to make me go back in too, but I told them I was going home with mom. When I told mom what happened I got so upset. She did her best to calm me down and distract me. It was a few days later when she talked to me about what happened more. I told her missing my name once in that speech was maybe understandable, but he wrote a long-ass book and still didn't mention my name. I told him he couldn't have made it clearer that I'm not his real kid. She told me she was so sorry. I mentioned what I heard before and she told me the biggest reason we divorced is he wanted to give me up because they had their own kids. But he fought for me in the divorce with my siblings, so she hoped he'd grow eventually. I said he probably didn't want to pay child support. I heard nothing from dad since. His family have tried to yell at me for making a scene at the wedding but mom shut them down. My siblings still go to his house but he doesn't ask about me or seem to care that I don't go with them. And even with that his family still wants to say I'm TA. Which pisses me off but makes me doubt myself. Aita. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. Dude doesn't give one shit about you. He never saw you as his son. Just don't have any relationship with him. Nothing more really. Reply. That fucking hurts too. I used to see people talk about being adopted and they were regretted once their adoptive parents had their own kids, and I never thought it would be me. But it was, and I had no idea for so many years. Commenter 2. Ask your mom to get full custody. Make him pay support. Never look back. Reply, I don't think she'd win. I know there are ways to prove it, but mom and I would prefer no child support and me staying there to being forced to go to dad's house when he told me and everyone else at his wedding that I'm not his real kid. Commenter 3. NTA. He made it clear that you're not his kid, so act as such. It hits and it sucks, and I know the feelings that come with being adopted, as I am too. Reply, it sucks so freaking much. I'm glad that mom loves me the same and would fight for me. Stories number 6. Aita for not letting my ex-husband and one of his future step-kids come inside. Our custody arrangement is for each of us to pick the kids up on our day during our 2-hour pickup window. He arrived at the house, and I already had the boys ready. I saw his car pull into the driveway on my camera, so the boys were already halfway to the door when my ex knocks. I open the door, and he is holding the hand of a 4-year-old. He asks to come in and says his fiance's son needs to use the bathroom. I told him I don't want him to come inside, because I don't feel comfortable with him in my house. He has a history of snooping through my things. He asked me to take his future stepson to the bathroom, and I said I was uncomfortable with the situation. He said his stepson needed to pee. I suggested the McDonald's up the road. He said my bathroom would be way cleaner than a McDonald's. At this point my 11-year-old started pestering his dad to stop so they could leave. My ex said your brother needs to use the bathroom. My son said I'll take him. My ex said no, your mother would rather he pee his pants. We'll go, and hopefully we'll get to the McDonald's in time. My ex and the boys left. He messaged me afterwards saying I was cruel to a child to punish him, and that's not okay. He said I made us both look bad in front of our kids and should be embarrassed of my actions. I have been fighting with him for so long, my perspective is screwed up. Was I in the wrong? Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. He wanted to snoop. This was obvious after he rejected your son's offer to take the kid to the bathroom. Sneaky, isn't he? Reply, always has been. He's an intelligent man. Commenter 2. Okay, so I like to ask my husband these scenarios and get his 2 cents. He seems to think, because you have stated you've had multiple problems with the ex, that this was more about control. He wanted you to do what he said. Was the boy hurting and crying because he had to go? If not, my spouse thinks it was a power play by your ex. If it were me, I would have asked my son to take him and told the ex to go wait in his car, but if this douche just like to jerk you around, then NTA. Reply, he was holding my ex's hand and kind of looking around. He didn't say anything. Commenter 3. Your son did actually offer to take the kid to the bathroom and your ex declined. Sounds like a power play to me. You can remind that he is not welcome into your house unless it is life or limb, and he needs to organize himself properly before he arrives. Update. I did talk to my lawyer about what happened. He said we can address it at the hearing we already have scheduled about the movie situation. I thought that was that, but of course it was my turn to pick up the kids today. When I arrived at my ex's place, he opened the door very wide and invited me in. I was suspicious and said no thank you. He kept insisting I come in so we can show the kids we are civil, but I had a bad feeling. I said I would just wait in the car for the boys to come out. I got in my car and texted my older son that I was there. A short while later he texted me back saying his dad said they couldn't leave unless I got them. I went back to the door and knocked again. Again, my ex invited me inside. I said I didn't want to come in, and that was when my boys showed up. My ex's fiancée was right behind them, telling them to come back upstairs. They ran to me, and we left. I don't know what his game is, but I'm not falling for it, whatever it is. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. He was way too insistent for you to come in and then refusing to let your kids leave. No. Always follow your gut, especially when the spider is so persistent in inviting the fly into the parlor. Commenter 2. What's the movie situation? Reply, I had plans to take the boys to the movies, and he wanted me to not take them so he could take them during his custody time. I let them decide, and they wanted to go on opening day my custody time. I took them. He's saying I shouldn't be able to take them to a movie he specifically told me not to take them to. I think that only applies when it's a movie he doesn't want them to see at all, not one he is okay with them seeing but merely wants to take them to himself. Commenter 3. Yeah, my ex tries to give me orders too. Newsflash, I'm not your husband anymore. I don't give a shit if she has spaghetti or pizza twice, and neither would the courts. You being neurotic about it is a you problem. Commenter 4. He has no right to tell you what to do, and what the kids go to watch when you have them. He's no longer your husband. He doesn't own the kids either. Please consider only talking with him over app, and only about essential things for kids. It's not essential for him to know what movies you see with your own children. Reply, our son told him we were going to watch the movie, not me. He was excited about it, so he told his dad. Commenter 5. I'm sure there is a good reason you left him, and not spending time with him was the desired outcome. Reply, you want to know something funny? Spending time with him was the best part. It was everything else that sucked. I had no privacy. He went through my phone and computer almost every night. If I asked to use my phone while he was going through it, I was hiding something. He would dig through the drawers looking for hidden stuff and mess everything up, and if I complained, he would do it again because there must have been something there if I was complaining. I had to account for every penny I spent, every moment I wasn't being productive. When we were doing things together he was so charming, funny and sweet. He's so handsome and smart and fit. But it got to the point where I was scared whenever he wasn't around because I couldn't trust myself to make decisions without his approval. I was becoming a shell of myself. Update. Just concluded our hearing, and it went okay, all things considered. Judge said that neither of us need the permission of the other to take the children to age-appropriate experiences like movies. He told X not to tell me I can't take the kids to do certain things because he wants to do them. If he wants to do them, he can, but so can I. So that was a win. Judge was annoyed that there was another drop-off issue. He was especially annoyed because the reason he gave my ex a 2-hour window for drop-offs was because he said he needed the flexibility since he is a caretaker of his fiancé's children. If he's taking them with him to drop-offs, why does he need 2 hours? Judge told him do not take his fiancé's children to my house, and do not ask to come inside my house. He told me not to ask to go inside his house either. He also told me not to rush my ex and to be patient and allow the children time to come to the door. I wasn't rushing him, but I didn't say that to the judge. I just agreed. X also dropped the bombshell that the week of the wedding he needs me to pick the kids up from the resort the wedding is at instead of his house, because they are going on their honeymoon straight from the resort and not returning home. I am very uncomfortable with this, and my lawyer said that is too much of a burden to put on me. The judge disagreed with my lawyer and said we all have to be flexible sometimes. So I am stuck doing that. I feel like he intentionally started fights about the previous 2 issues he knew he would lose on so the judge would side with him on the final issue to make things fair. Maybe I'm just paranoid. So 2 wins and a loss. Hopefully they'll be too happy about being married to pull any stunts. Comments. Commenter 1. I know it sucks that you have to drive to get them, but this is great news about the rest. He has additional rules that stick forever, while you are only inconvenienced once. If you could only win on 2, I'm glad it was the 2 you got. Reply, you are correct. I feel good about that, even though I am incredibly stressed out. I am worried he is going to try to trick me into doing or saying something that can be perceived as hostile and tell the judge I sabotaged his wedding. Commenter 2. Organize to have a friend or family member who is good at making you see the ridiculousness of X, or keeping you calm come with you to pick up the kids from the wedding venue. The buddy system doesn't stop being a good idea when you turn 18. It's useful throughout our lives. Commenter 3. Also have the friend record any interactions you have with anyone associated with him. Make sure to communicate with text as much as possible. Having dealt with an ex like him, it helps to think of all the ways he could push your buttons and how you can respond with grace and kindness. He is going to do what he can to make you look crazy in front of everyone, don't let him. However, keep in mind that it does not really matter what his family and friends think about you. I mean, how pathetic that you are even a consideration on his wedding day. What matters is that you have receipts and that you behave in a way that is above reproach. Also that your kiddos see you acting with grace and kindness even when their dad is being an ass. Obviously, he will lie about the pickup time. He will want you to witness how beautiful the wedding is and how happy they are. Or, tell everyone how you crashed the wedding, and are being unreasonable about the time wanting to ruin their day. Lying about when they are leaving for the honeymoon. Either you will be late to pick up the kids, because you want to ruin everything for them, or they will be leaving way later than he says, which he can spin in the same way. He may even lie to his family about you insisting on picking them up so that you can insert yourself into his wedding day. Bonus for him if he can cost you time and money. Set yourself up for success. Your first concern is your kiddos' well-being. Do think of it as an opportunity to take a mini break with a friend and then kiddos after the wedding. Maybe don't stay at the same place, but do stay near there so you can be flexible about picking them up without seeming to hover. Make sure you book it for 2 nights so that if he keeps putting off the pickup until late at night, you have a place nearby without having to drive forever to get the kiddos to bed. Maybe even stay a 3rd night so that you can spend the next day with the kiddos doing fun stuff in the area. Check with the hotel about the times of the wedding and reception to check against what her is telling you. See if there is a place where you can sit at a bar or in a garden so that you can wait things out in an out-of-the-way place after he tries to switch things up, or know what is in the area so you have something to do while waiting, but are nearby. Be flexible, but only to a certain degree. For instance, if you find out his parents really wanted to keep the kiddos with them, let them bring the extra clothes you brought for them. Tell them you were not informed, but think it is a wonderful opportunity for them to spend time with the grandkids. You know him better than anyone. Use that knowledge to stay a couple steps ahead. You don't want to hurt him, but you do need to protect yourself and your kiddos. Reply, that all sounds. I don't even know. It never occurred to me that he would lie about what time the wedding is. Even thinking about it is giving me a headache. Stories number 7. Aita for refusing to sell the place I bought with stripper money. For several years I was a stripper. I have no shame about what I did, and only quit when I got a better job offer. In the time I worked as a stripper, I intentionally lived as cheaply as possible, shitty little studio flat, living off ramen, wearing old clothes because my coworkers all told me that they were able to buy their own places on their income, so long as they saved like crazy. Before I retired, I managed to outright buy myself a 3-bedroom flat. I rented out the other rooms for a while, but I got sick of having roommates, so now I have them up online for shorter stays, but not to rent. I met this guy about 18 months ago, and we've been together since. He knows about my employment history, and he said that he has no issue with it, though he did ask me to tell his family the white lie I occasionally use on my CV and stuff, which is that I was a waitress, which I kind of was TBF. A month ago we found out that I'm 2 months pregnant. He says this is great news, and we should move in together. I assumed he'd be moving into my place because he rents his far smaller 1-bedroom flat while I own mine, and I have room for a baby's room while he doesn't. Also, I really don't want to leave my flat. It's my flat, I love it, I could see myself living here for the rest of my life, and I don't want to lose the security of owning a flat and have to go back to paying rent or a mortgage each month. However, he then said that he didn't want to move into my place, and said I should sell it and we buy a place together. I said that I like my place, it means a lot to me that I was able to buy it, and it represents years of working my arse off scrimping and saving. He then said that he understands all of that, but we should be living together by the time the baby comes, and he didn't want to live in my flat. I asked him why not. It's a great flat, it's central to everything, it's spacious, it's got room for all his stuff, there's a daycare in the building owned by another tenant and a school 5-minute walk away, the list goes on, and he said that he didn't want to live in a flat that was bought with stripper money. That really pissed me off, and I told him no fucking way am I selling my flat, and that he never had an issue with my stripper money paying for this flat before now. I said I wasn't giving up the security of owning a home for someone who tries to make me feel ashamed about something I don't feel ashamed of. He said that his point is if I sold the flat then we could get a new place with the money from the sale. I said wouldn't that still be stripper money? And he said that's different, and I asked how. He then said he was going back to his place because I can't talk to you when you're in this state. He's gone back to his flat now and he's texted me saying I'm overreacting/irrational and I need to think of this realistically rather than emotionally. He says he wouldn't feel right raising a child in my flat knowing how I purchased it, and moving is the best idea of all of us, not to mention the fact he isn't on the deed because it's my place and it would never feel like our place because of this. I feel I might be the arse because I get why he might feel like it's just my place, and I feel I'm being too rigid in a time we need to work together, plus I spoke to my sister and she sided with him, so 2 out of 3 people think I'm in the wrong here. Relevant comments. Regarding the boyfriend's financial situation. Let's say you did sell it, how much would he be contributing to buying a new place? Has he similarly been saving a bunch? Or would it be you selling your place to buy a new place all by yourself? He doesn't have much in savings. He has a startup company that he's trying to get off the ground, but he's only had about 4 clients hire him in nearly a year. He swears that eventually business will pick up, but he left a far better paying, salaried job and now works in hospitality for minimum wage through an agency, because the old job wouldn't let him have a startup while working for them, and he's basically burned through the savings and bridges he did have to keep the company afloat. It sounds like option 1 would be us buying a new place while I rented out my flat, meaning that we would put down a deposit and then we'd pay off a large mortgage together. Option 2 would be selling the flat, in which case as it's a 3-bedroom flat, we'd probably have about 80% of the total cost of a 3-bedroom house, and then we'd get a far smaller mortgage that we'd still have to pay off. Why the sister agrees with her boyfriend. She's my big sister, and she loves me, but she never really approved of the stripper thing. This might be that manifesting. Does the boyfriend have an issue with OP stripping past? If he thinks your home is tainted by being bought with the proceeds of working in the sex/entertainment industry, then we already know what he thinks of you deep down. You know what's super funny about this? And by funny I mean infuriating. Every celebration, he and his friends go to a strip club. Whether it's a bachelor party, birthday, graduation, promotion, whatever, he goes at least once every few months. And he has the nerve to have a go at me for being a stripper years ago. More on the pregnancy. It wasn't planned. We spent the first 6-ish months on and off, and we fully broke up for about a month around 6 months ago, so we haven't even discussed moving in together. People suggest that the boyfriend might have tampered with the birth control. And, by any chance, is it possible that he manipulated your birth control? I'm not on BC for medical reasons, but we always use protection. I never noticed anything weird like a leak or a tear. He wouldn't do that. Update on the same post. I dumped him. There was a whole conversation, and during the conversation he said he didn't want to be a parent if I wasn't willing to do everything he wanted, including sharing a house plus staying together. Also, at the start of the conversation I said what a few people suggested, which was that I'd be willing to sell and split the house with him, provided he paid 50%, and he got very angry, very quickly. He also said a few other things, so IDK how it's all going to pan out just yet, but it looks like I'm going to be a single mother. Update. I have 2 audio recordings of my ex admitting to tampering with birth control. Is it any use? In England, I recently found out I was pregnant. I am not on the pill and don't have the implant either, due to medical reasons, so our only protection was condoms. I am now 2 months pregnant with his child. I own my own flat and have a well-paying job, while he owns a failing startup and does agency shifts. We talked yesterday. Someone suggested I recorded all interactions, as a few people had already guessed that he might have messed with our birth control, so I set my phone to record as he arrived. During the conversation, he initially said that if we weren't together as a couple, then he wouldn't want to be in this baby's life, and when I said we could work out split custody he said that's bullshit. Later in the conversation he said I thought a baby would fix things. I responded it couldn't have fixed anything, if anything it made things more strained with us as the baby wasn't planned, and he snapped at me, of course it fucking was. How'd you think you got pregnant? Fucking magic. He then paused and he said I mean that, it wasn't like, stop making that face, I'm joking. I directly asked him are you saying you messed up the condoms? And he quietly but audibly says yeah. I told him to get out of my flat and he said look, have it, don't have it, I don't give a shit before he left. I later texted him, saying just tell me why. He then called me, so I started recording on my MP3. Over the phone he admitted that he was hoping I'd sell my flat, buy a new place with a mortgage, and we could give the business a boost. I hung up on him. Hours before the initial conversation, I spoke to a solicitor who deals with custody stuff regularly, so he said he'd help me with the custody stuff. However, he's married to my friend, and I love her but she's a bit of a gossip and can be a little condescending as in oh, poor you, so I don't want either of them knowing about any of this if it's unusable. My ex was not aware that I was recording at any point in either recording, and there's no visuals, only audio on both recordings. We did say each other's names a few times on the first, but not at all on the second. Is this admissible in a custody battle? Is it useful due to the context? I feel like he said all the things that would win my case if there was one, but if he can't do anything with it then I don't want him knowing about it. If it is useful and admissible, then do I just send it to the friend's husband? Thanks in advance. Relevant comment. Why does OP want to use the recording? I'm worried he might push for 50-50 custody in order to avoid paying child support, or ask for majority custody so I have to pay him, which he could win as he has family while I only have my sister and I have an employment history that could make me look bad, or he'll otherwise try to pull something if we end up in a custody case. After hearing this, I want full custody, and I'm worried he'll push back in general. Update, Aita for refusing to sell the place I bought with stripper money. Quick recap on my first post. I spent several years working as a stripper, at the end of which I was able to buy my own flat. I've been with my boyfriend for about 18 months, and I'm currently around 3 months pregnant. With the news of the baby incoming, my boyfriend said he wanted me to sell my place so we could use the money to get a new place together, and when I refused he called me irrational. I thought I was TA because of that, plus my sister sided with him. Now for the update, because a lot of people asked for one. First off, I dumped him. He initially said that he doesn't want to be a parent if we're not a couple, but earlier this week he told me he wants majority custody, so not only does he not have to pay child support, but if he gets majority then I end up paying him. He actually said that was his reasoning. He also runs his own startup, and admitted the startup is basically done for, and he was hoping that when I sold my place I could also put a cash injection into his business with the money, so basically this was all about money for him, and I have extensive documentation of all of this. There's going to be a legal case, but I've gotten legal advice, and it looks like I'll be able to get sole custody, which is what I intend to go for. In the last couple weeks, my sister has doubled down and is trying to get me to fix things with my ex because a baby should have a complete family, so I've not been involving her in my pregnancy, which she is furious about. She also told our parents, which I am furious about, so we're not speaking right now. I also want to say thank you to everyone who commented on my first post. When I first posted, between my boyfriend and my sister, I was genuinely convinced I was in the wrong, so to have such an overwhelmingly supportive response really helped me realize that I shouldn't doubt myself so much, and with that realization, plus everything going on right now, I've decided to go to therapy, which I will be starting next week. All in all, the outcome of this is probably going to be me being a single mother in the flat I own. And honestly, pretty decent outcome. Relevant comments. Regarding child support. According to the child support calculator, the minimum child support I would be paying if he had majority custody would be £50 a week. I think a packet of nappies is about 5 or 10 quid, and baby food is like a quid per jar. No way would he be able to live off child support, even if he had majority custody, and the fact he thinks he could shows that he really hasn't thought this through. More on the sister. She does have a complete family, or at least the start of one husband, a kid, and trying for more kids. I think she's pushy about the whole idea of a complete family because our birth family was not a great situation, so she seems to want all of our siblings, 5 of us, to marry off, have some kids, and do right by them. It seems to be really bugging her that I'm willing to be a single mom and mess with the complete family she's pictured me having, but I am going to do right by my kid no matter what. Thank you. Honestly, we didn't have the most stable home life growing up, and she was really big on wanting a regular, nuclear family as soon as she could build one, so I think maybe our upbringing has translated into pushing/wanting this whole complete family as adults. I thought that, too, and I wanted it to be true, but then she told our parents I was pregnant, and until that point, I believed it could be from a place of love, but telling our parents about the baby is not coming from a good place, or at best it's coming from a good but naive place. They kicked me out when I was a teenager for no good reason. She's tried to get me to mend fences with them and I've refused, and of our whole extended family I'm only in touch with one sister, her, and one brother. Update 3. It's twins. I have no due date. And I'm panicking. I wasn't sure if I should tag this as rant/vent or help. Because I'm panicking and it shows, but I also need advice. So I had a scan today and it's twins. The tech said it was hard to tell, but she thinks they're identical. She also asked how far along I thought I was, and I said the number I worked out was 14 weeks. But I wasn't 100% certain as this was my first proper checkup aside from my GP, who said they'd tell me at the scan, and the tech said both me and the babies were a little big for 14 weeks, and that we looked more like 16. She offered me an estimated due date, which is just the first half of March, then said that with twins it can be harder to tell, and that didn't exactly ease my panic. Though everything else looks good, so that's amazing. But twins. There's 2 of them. And there's one of me. And I think it's just really hitting me right now that I have never been a mom before and I have no clue what I'm doing, and there's going to be not 1 but 2 tiny humans depending on me who are arriving sometime in March. When in March? It's a surprise. I have room for twins. I have resources for twins. I think I have the energy for twins. But I am terrified. I have no clue what I'm doing. I have 3 bedrooms, so do I put them in separate rooms or together? My friend offered to stay with me for a little after the birth, and I said no, so am I going to need to take him up on that? Is there anything different about having twins that I should be aware of aside from there being 2 of them? Also, what do I do about this window the tech gave me? Is that normal? Are they going to be able to narrow it down at any point? I know I just got out a lot, but if anyone has any advice for me on the due date or due window of time or the whole twin situation, it'd be really great. Update 4. My friends have been amazing through my pregnancy birth. How do I adequately thank them? I spent 18 months in a relationship that in retrospect was very controlling, and I fell out of contact with a lot of friends because of how my ex felt about them. My ex and I broke up, I was pregnant with twins when we split, and I began therapy. The therapist got me to reach out to friends I'd neglected. There were 2 in particular that I really missed and decided to reach out to first, Lily and Caleb. They were happy to hear from me, and were completely understanding of the situation with my ex. I reached out to them mid-October, and it's like we never stopped talking. I've been friends with Lily since we were kids, and I met Caleb at university, nearly a decade ago. My ex didn't like Lily because she's bisexual as am I, and he didn't like Caleb because he's a straight man. Since October I've been talking to both of them regularly. Christmas rolled around and we were all alone, so I said they were welcome to come over. Lily and Caleb had met before this, but they were more acquaintances than friends, and they became friends over Christmas dinner. They, and a couple other friends, pitched in and bought me a mixer plus a metric fuckton of baby stuff for Christmas. Lily and Caleb then began coming over more often. They made a group chat so we could make plans together. They helped me put together the nursery. Lily drove me to one of my appointments, and when I mentioned in passing that I was craving ice cream, Caleb showed up with 4 tubs the next day. These are just examples, but generally they went above and beyond the last few months. I went into labor 3 weeks ago, nearly a full month early. With preemie twins things have been hectic, and I wasn't taking visitors for the first week, but a few days after coming home they told me in the group chat to open the front door, and when I did there was a bag containing ready meals and snacks, plus a couple tubs of formula. When I began taking visitors, they would show up together, and one of them minds the kids while the other cleans. The only reason I'm able to write this right now is that they came over earlier. Caleb got both girls to go to sleep and Lily left me a meal for tonight. I have a weird relationship with the concept of asking for help. I had to be self-sufficient from a young age, so asking other people for help is uncomfortable for me. They know this, which is why they're not waiting for me to ask, so much as they are just showing up and helping. I have been thanking them profusely, but they always tell me not to thank them, saying that we're friends, so this is completely reasonable, but I know they're doing a lot more than anyone else would in this situation. Which prompts the question, how do I adequately thank Lily and Caleb for everything they've been doing the last few months? Where do I even begin? Relevant comments. A letter is a really nice idea, and it would save me from just saying whatever comes out of my mouth, lol. We have watched a TV show together a couple times, but I've always ended up falling asleep. I'm thinking about doing some baking in a bit, so I might make them some brownies. You could name them godparents. I can't believe I didn't think of that. I will absolutely do that, so long as they're willing. Although if you want to go totally nuts, you could ask them both to marry you. It's tempting, TBH. I mean, we have been flirting a lot. Just not sure we're there yet, lol. They aren't together. I introduced them at Christmas, and we're all flirting with each other. It was started to boost my self-esteem and now it's an inside joke. Very glad the girls don't understand what we're saying yet. I think all of these except the barbecue are doable. I live in a flat, no garden. The brownies are done for the next time they come over and I'll look into flowers now. They are very into hugging. I usually end up cuddling up with at least one of them, sometimes both, lol. Thank you. OP makes another post about people offering to watch her kids unsolicited. I couldn't include it, but she gives some information about her family in the comments. It can be found here. Update 5. Sister wants me to adopt her baby, who she has promised to our abusive parents. I already have twins. Is this a good idea? I have 3-month-old twin girls. I have been no contact with my parents for a decade, due to them being highly abusive and kicking me out as a teen. I am not letting them meet my kids because of this. My sister is 3 months pregnant. She lives with our parents, and says she intends to continue doing this as she doesn't want to raise a child, but they want a grandchild, so the idea is they would all live together and my parents would raise the child while my sister was only the mother on paper. I called my sister to work out a way to get the baby away from our parents. She said if I want to take the baby, she will allow a legal adoption, but that's the only other option she will consider. The bio father is not going to be involved, so he doesn't factor in here. I have the money to take in a 3rd child, and with a bit of adjusting I could make the room. I can extend my maternity leave to a full year. It's meant to end soon, meaning that when the newborn arrives I would have 3 months left of my leave to get settled. I am a single mother, but I have a strong network of friends to help and my job has been very good with me taking leave and my work entitles me to free childcare. Would pursuing the adoption be a good idea? What would potentially having 9-month-old twins and a newborn at the same time look like? Would being so close in age affect the kids growing up? Sorry if this is the wrong place to ask this, but it seemed like the most logical forum to go to. Relevant comments about the sister, the parents, and the adoption. If we were to go along with the adoption and my sister were to change her mind last minute, I would be surprised and upset, but I would understand. I loved my twins from the minute I knew I was pregnant. I can't imagine ever willingly giving them up, so if it turned out my sister felt the same, I would accept that. There's a reason bio parents are usually given a grace period to change their minds, and I would be willing to honor that. I would only draw the line at her changing her mind after several years. My sister moved in with our parents voluntarily. She's in her mid-20s, and would have been able to continue living alone. She chose to move in with them and support them financially as she was concerned about them. If they did hypothetically kick her out, which is unlikely given that she's paying for everything, she would still have income and land on her feet, and when we were talking I offered her my guest room and financial support if she wanted to move out, so if she were kicked out and couldn't afford a new place, I would be willing to extend the offer of a rent-free guest room and financial support again. I have no idea what her plans are. She's 24 and was living alone before the national lockdown, at which point she voluntarily moved in with our parents in order to support them, but she could have continued living alone, so it was entirely her choice, and she can leave any time. I assume that if the situation becomes untenable she will choose to move out again, but she says that she feels she owes it to them to support them as they supported her until she was 18. I've said that is absolutely not how that works, but she is very insistent. No. She says that she has to stay with our parents, as she feels that she owes them her help, and that if I were to take the baby, she would have no responsibility to said baby. She also has no desire to be a mother in general, so even if she did move in with me and the baby, she would not want to provide an extra set of hands, or help with any of the 3 total babies at all, and I'm in a far better financial position than she is, so she wouldn't want to provide income either. If she got pregnant again then I have no idea what I'd do, but she said she's certain she does not want kids and wants to look into permanent birth control after the birth. She is completely willing to sign away all rights and make this a full and legal adoption, where she is the aunt and nothing more. We would of course explain the biology to the child ASAP, but she would never want to act as a mother. I'm sort of hoping she doesn't take me up on the offer to live with me, as we never particularly enjoyed living together as kids, and I think that plus having her around the newborn, particularly if she's still in contact with our parents, could be a recipe for disaster. She could afford to live alone right now with no issues, so I doubt she'd take me up on it anyway. Update 6. I might have 3 under 1 in 6 months' time. I posted this elsewhere but someone directed me here, so I hope this is okay. I have 3-month-old twins and my sister is 3 months pregnant. She wants me to adopt her child, meaning that when my twins are 9 months old, I may be adopting her newborn, giving me 3 under 1. The 3-month-olds are doing well. We got off to a shaky start, but they're currently sleeping 4 to 5 hours straight, so I'm hoping they'll be sleeping through the night soon, and haven't had any serious issues despite being slightly premature a couple weeks. I've arranged childcare for when I go back to work. I'm meant to go back soon, but I can either extend my maternity leave to a full year, meaning that I'll be off for 6 months, then the newborn comes, then I'll have another 3 months to adjust, or I can go back for 5 to 6 months and then take a second round of leave when the new baby comes. Which sounds best? I have a 3-bedroom flat, and the plan was that as the girls got older, they would get a bedroom each, but if I brought in a 3rd child, what would be the setup? Could they share a room? How long for? Would I need to get a bigger place right away, or could I hold off until I have a little more in the bank? I really want to take my sister's kid in, as it's the only way to keep them safe, but I don't know if having 3 babies on my hands at once is the best idea, particularly when I'm a single parent. Could anyone in a similar position give me a better idea of what 3 under 1 would look like? I'm doing pretty well with 2, but a 3rd child who is 9 months younger than the others doesn't sound easy, to say the least. Relevant comments. Would the sister give up the baby for adoption? She would not. She says either our parents raise the baby, or I do. I did suggest other options, such as offering her resources to enable her to keep the child. She says she doesn't want to be a mother, or asking our siblings to take the baby. She says they are all ill-equipped to take the child, which is true. Placing the baby up for adoption was mentioned, but the system isn't great where we are, better than most places but still not great, and she doesn't want to take any chances. She says that she knows I'm a good mother from what our brother has told her, and she trusts me with her child, and if I can't do it, then our parents will. What if OP and the parents said no? My parents would never have said no. They want a grandchild really badly, and this has only been exacerbated by me having kids that I won't let them see. Frankly, my sister has been my parents' lap dog for a while, and my parents can be very manipulative, so if she were to admit that she intentionally conceived solely to give them a grandchild that they could see, I would not be surprised. After that, OP makes a post about her job as a teacher and struggles with maternity leave. It can be found here. Update 7. He's here. I'm adopting my sister's son. He was born 8 days ago, but he's over 2 months premature. Closer to 3. The birth was meant to be natural but ended up a C-section due to complications, but the C-section was still routine with no issues. Doctor said it went as well as it could have overall. The doctor wanted to keep my son for a bit longer because he's just so early and they want to be positive it's safe before I take him home. However, because I can't begin the formal adoption for a few weeks still, and with the you-know-what restricting visitors, this means I can't even visit him. I would post a pic here but I don't even have a picture to show you. I've only seen him once, immediately after the birth. My sister is allowed to see him as the birth mother but she's only been once. I was meant to be able to take him home yesterday but they asked to keep him longer and run a few more tests. I'm either getting no information or incredibly limited info because despite being his mother and him coming to live with me once he's released, because it isn't on paper yet and I didn't birth him, they're not allowed to give me the same information that my sister is getting. I'm angry and frustrated and tired and anxious, and while my partners are trying to calm me, it's not working. I just want him home safe. Relevant comment. He's about 10 weeks early. I thought a week was a short time but the nurse assured me I could take him home after that. Paperwork can start from when he's 6 weeks old but that isn't including the time it takes to be approved. The other legal aspects have been dealt with so it should be a fairly simple process but I still have to wait to file. Hi. This is me God, I go off Reddit for a few days and go viral again LMFAO. You're right. I did, very briefly, try for poly with my friends I mentioned in the advice post, and it was fine for a while but ultimately, we just weren't clicking, not helped by me having the kids, and going through a lot of big changes in life, like starting a new job and adopting my nephew, a process which is still ongoing despite him being over a year old already. I ended up single for a while, and then met my current partner, which would have been about 7 months ago now, so yeah you are right on the money with this. Hi, I'm the OP. To be clear, the Aita sister who shamed me for not appeasing my abuser is different to the one whose child I adopted. The one whose child I adopted is financially supporting our parents, you're right, and she's still doing that. However, I have reason to believe that her pregnancy was intentional. She's never explicitly said anything, but what she has said is that our parents wanted a grandchild, and she wanted them to have one, but once she actually got pregnant, I had the conversation with her about how abusive our parents were/are, and she then pushed for me to adopt the baby, a process she is still helping me with despite supporting our parents while she does it. It feels to me like she might have intentionally gotten pregnant to essentially be a surrogate for our parents, and then realized how phenomenally stupid that idea was once she was actually pregnant. At the end of the day, the method wasn't great, but I feel like she ultimately did the right thing, and I'm seeing a fair amount of shaming her in the comments here that I don't love tbh, so thanks for sticking up for her. OP later makes a comment on another post about her ex-boyfriend. My ex is a deadbeat who wants nothing to do with the kids because they had the audacity to be girls, and he's stealing photos either from me or just random photos off the internet and posting on Facebook about his girls and how much he loves them, how much he enjoyed taking them to the park or group, and is getting praise heaped on him when he's never even met them. The bar isn't even on the floor at this point, it's subterranean. OP also shares more information about her kids and her partners. I have 2 partners and 3 kids, which means that right now we're evenly matched. 1 adult per child. Feels pretty perfect, number-wise. The kids are also a bit of a handful, not in terms of behavior but twin 4-year-olds and a 3-year-old who is turning 4 soon, they're perfect but it's a lot. There's also the factor that my partners and I can't have kids the old-fashioned way, as I'm a woman, one of my partners is also a woman, and my other partner is a trans man, so it would require IVF or sperm donors or something of that sort. We might change our mind in a few years, but for now we're content to just love our kids as is. New update. Life update for anyone who is still here. I lost the password to this account and didn't give an email, but I was scrolling while logged out earlier and there was one post that stoked such a rage in me I pulled out my old laptop which I haven't used in 2 years that had the password saved and got in solely to reply to that post, only for it to get locked as soon as I logged in. Then I saw that I have over 60 notifications, including one from Reddit saying I have rewards expiring on 31/12/24 and need to use them before they expire. Oops. All the other messages are asking how I am, what I'm up to, how me and the kids are doing, all that sort of thing, so this is just a very quick post on my profile for anyone who is still here. LMAO. I'm fine. Thanks for asking. Would not have been able to say that a couple years ago but honestly am now. Kids are fine. The girls are 4 and starting school in September and I'm just about holding it together because it feels like yesterday that the midwife was comparing the sizes of the fetuses to various fruit and veg. Annoyingly, though, my son was born 4 days after the cutoff so he won't be starting school until next year, which he's really upset by as he wants to do what his sisters are doing. I think he'll prefer being a year behind in the long run, though, speaking as someone with several siblings who was always grateful for that extra space at school. Love life boyfriend is gone. Not the father but the guy I started seeing a bit after the kids were born, because he also turned out to be a scumbag. I took some time off dating, and have recently got back together with the two people I mentioned in a previous post, where I referred to them as Lily and Caleb. We tried dating between the boyfriends, but broke it off initially because honestly I had a lot going on, my self-esteem was not great, and I felt like I was using them, and since I've had some time to just be single and focus on me and the kids, of course I realized that I really am in love with them, and it appears that was mutual. We're coming up on our first anniversary. Kids are aware and very happy. Job, I've changed jobs once more since I last logged in. Been in the new job for about 18 months, going well, pays almost as well as stripping and it's hybrid so plenty of time at home with the kids. Baby daddy, not heard from him. Knew I wouldn't, to be fair. He's dodging child maintenance but I don't need it so not worth panicking about. Did try and put a legal case against him but it didn't go anywhere. Again, wasn't expecting it to, but both of these things are good to have on record in case he decides to be a problem again in future. I do know that he's gotten married recently, and I hope his wife has full command of their birth control. Family, again not heard from them. I do get some news from screenshots my friends send me, as a couple of relatives occasionally hop on Facebook to moan about how I'm such an awful person for keeping the kids from them, but it's keeping them safe so I don't feel too bad about that. Flat, given my rapidly growing family, I was thinking about selling. I even put it on the market and there was an estate agent bringing people by while I looked at houses. I felt awful about it because I love this flat, and it's always been a symbol for me that I can achieve things I never thought I could, and of the houses I saw, not many ticked all of my boxes, so when the flat next door went on the market shortly after mine, I took it as a sign. I spoke with the owner and our shared estate agent and we agreed that I would take my flat off the market, buy theirs, and just convert it into one massive flat, which solved every problem I had and didn't hurt my property value either. Did take a while to sort everything out but so happy I did it as my only issue with this flat was space, and that's sorted. Can't think of what else to add except maybe that my hair is red now. IDK everything else is basically the same LMAO but happy to answer any questions if anyone is out there to ask them. Assuming that most of the people who followed me when I made that first post 5 years ago are, like me, inactive, have forgotten their passwords, or have fully forgotten why they followed me in the first place, but if you do remember me then hi, thanks for all the well wishes and appropriately concerned messages, and I honestly just really appreciate the support. When I made this account I had no self-esteem, was really low all the time, and was stuck in a controlling relationship that I didn't even realize was controlling. If it wasn't for the people here who told me to get out of there, I would probably still be in that relationship, without my beautiful family or my beautiful flat. Stories number 8. I26M found her 28F TikTok after we went on a date. This is honestly not something I expected to post about, but here's the thing. I have known this woman, 28F, for a while since we are in the same friend groups. She's a nice person, attractive, and honestly, I've always enjoyed my talks with her. A few weeks ago, I, 26M, asked her out on a date. I figured, if she says no, it's fine. But she actually agreed. We went on a date this past Saturday, and honestly, I thought it was awesome. We went out to dinner, had drinks, spent the rest of the night talking, and we even took a walk on a walking bridge over the town's lake. It's not a big one. I dropped her off and was elated. I absolutely loved the night. However, that night when I was scrolling through TikTok on my bed, a post from her I didn't follow nor knew she had a TikTok appeared on my For You page. Essentially, she said in the post, getting ready for a date I really don't want to go to. That was like a bucket of ice water being thrown on my head. I was so freaking happy, and I just found out she didn't even want to go on a date with me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying she has to want it, but please, let me know if that's the case. We don't need to go out. We can forget I even asked her out. But doing this, on the internet? It made me, self-conscious. Not sure if that's the right word. Now, I'm unsure about what to do. Should I tell her I saw this or just forget about it? Honestly, it really hurt me, and I'm not really sure I want to give this another try. I mean, she didn't want to go out with me in the first place. Right? TLDR, asked, 28F, out, had an amazing date, later discovered her TikTok post indicating she didn't want to go out. Feeling hurt and unsure whether to talk to her about it. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I'd comment on the post and ask if the date went well. Commenter 2. This Just because she didn't want to go doesn't mean she didn't have a good time. I think all of us have been there. Where we don't feel like socializing but it turns out okay or fun. Her not wanting to go may not be a judgment on the OP at all. Could simply be they weren't in the mood for a date. Which might actually be a compliment to OP that she was still willing to do it for OP anyhow. Commenter 3. It's a low blow to post it on social media. People has feelings, she didn't give a shit about OP finding out. Especially if they know each other from a friend group, good human beings don't proceed like that. Commenter 4. I'd say leave her be. If she asks why, then tell her you saw her video. Simple as that. Commenter 5. I just wouldn't ask her for a second date and let it be. Don't give her fuel for her TikTok. Just tell her you don't think you're a good fit if she asks. Commenter 6. I'd feel like a child dating somebody who airs their whole personal life on fucking TikTok. Of all apps too yuck. OMG fight with the boyfriend. You'll never guess what he said. Commenter 7. The thing for me would be this, who on earth would post that on TikTok, and why? The potential answers will tell you a lot. I would never want to be with someone that would find that an appropriate thing to post for so many reasons. My interest in such a person would disappear after seeing something like that, and I hope you have the wherewithal to feel similarly. This woman is not worth it, and at least you discovered that quickly. Distance yourself if you know what's good for you. No point in causing any drama over it, and honestly, that might be something she would enjoy. Commenter 8. As an introvert with some social anxiety, I don't think I've ever wanted to go on a first date. Even if I really liked the guy and wanted to go to the location, my mind would always convince me I was going to be unhappy. Luckily most of my first dates had been fine or great, sprinkle in a few duds. As an older woman, I don't understand this need to post everything that goes on in your life or in your mind. Sometimes it's nice to just let passing thoughts pass. But I also understand younger people grew up immersed in social media and this is normal to them. This person has made it clear that she's going to post things publicly that you may think should be private. That alone may drive you to decline any future dates with her, and if so, just let her know you saw her TT and aren't comfortable with your dates being the subject of her videos. Be forewarned, she may post about it. If you choose to see her again, I think it's worth having an honest conversation and set your boundary around what you aren't comfortable with her posting. Commenter 9. I think context matters a lot. Was she saying she didn't want to go out with you or just wasn't in the mood to go out? Is her content about social anxiety? I rarely want to actually do things while I'm getting ready, it's 100% anxiety, but that does not mean I don't want to spend time with the people I have plans with. Or she just really didn't want to go, ick her and didn't see the video. My only point is that phrase alone doesn't necessarily speak to her feelings about you. Final update. Hello, everyone. Some people have reached out to me through comments or chat, asking for an update on the situation. Sadly, there isn't much to share at the moment, but I'll provide what I can. Please keep in mind that I won't be discussing this further, nor will I reply to comments. Thank you for your understanding. After last week's post, I read almost every comment, or at least most of them. I'm thankful to all those who commented and shared a bit of their own personal story. Some people mentioned that anxiety is normal and feeling like not going out is definitely common, suggesting that I shouldn't look too much into it. While I agree with their perspective and see no fault in not feeling like going out, what bothered me the most in this situation was having to post a TikTok for a significant audition. I'm a private person by nature, and even my social media accounts, like Instagram, have only a single post. I don't really like to overtly share, nor do I want to be with someone who does. It's completely fine to share whatever you want, I just don't want to be a part of it. So, I decided not to contact her. I chose to pretend I had never seen the post and let things be. I understand a lot of people might think this isn't the best choice, but I feel it is the best course for both of us. Last Thursday, a few friends, who also happened to know her, invited me for drinks. We went to a bar, and while we were eating and enjoying our drinks, a mutual friend asked me how my date went, as our circle was aware that we were going on a date. I didn't want to say much, so I just replied, "Oh, it was good, but I don't think we clicked." This friend followed it by saying, "We figured," which made me feel rather uneasy. When I asked what he was talking about, he hesitated but eventually said that they had seen a TikTok post from her about not wanting to go out. At this point, I didn't really know what to say. This situation is just incredibly messy for me, but there's not much I can do about it. Still, I wasn't going to mention it, nor did I try to look up if there was any update on her part. In fact, I deleted TikTok after that incident. It just wasn't doing me any good. Nevertheless, this past Saturday, she sent me a text. She mentioned that she enjoyed our date and asked if I wanted to go out again. I understand that she clearly stated that she enjoyed our time together. However, I don't want to be with someone who exposes so much of their personal life. It's not something that would be good for me. So, I decided to tell her the truth and send a text explaining that while I absolutely enjoyed our date, her company, and that I thought she was an amazing woman, her post from the night of our date came across my For You page on TikTok, and it made me feel really self-conscious. While I understand that she enjoyed the date, contrary to what she felt at the time of the post, I didn't feel comfortable going out with someone who had such a high level of exposure online. I wished her the best and expressed hope that she finds someone whose lifestyle aligns with hers. She has read the message, and left me on read ever since. I don't think she will reply, and I don't think we'll have a lot of social interactions going forward. I'm sorry if this wasn't the update you guys were expecting. But yeah, sadly, that's what the situation became. Anyhow, wish everyone a good day. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I was late to the party on the last post you made. I think what you did was right. You gave your explanation in a way that she couldn't really milk it for content. If she did use your response for content, she would have been shat on so hard and labeled a shitty person. Hopefully, this is a good lesson for her going forward. Commenter 2. I guarantee you, she's still going to make another TikTok that will be rather unflattering for OP. Given what she did prior, she seems like that type of person. Commenter 3. OP, contrary to what you may think, you got the message through to her loud and clear. I feel so sorry for people dating in the era of ever-present social media. It just ruins everything it touches. Commenter 4. This is the best outcome for you. You handled everything great. Good for you. Commenter 5. LOL, she couldn't even respond to you. She sounds annoying as hell. Wouldn't surprise me if she only asked for a second date to fuel more TikTok content. Not saying you're not a catch OP, but this girl seems like the type to live for social media attention. Commenter 6. Dude, you just rejected her after she asked you on another date. Hilarious, she didn't even want to go in the first place. Hopefully she has learnt a lesson and will grow from it. It's not nice to spread all your life online, there are consequences. Keep the message of her asking you out, you might need it in your friend group. Commenter 7. Just me, or is the irony of this situation incredible? Stories number 9. Aita for refusing to consider being a guardian to my dad's new stepchild if something happened to him and his wife. My dad got married last year and his wife has a 4-year-old child on the autism spectrum. For this reason there have been a lot of concerns about what would happen to him if they both passed. His biological father is not in his life and neither are the biological father's extended family. My dad's ILs are around but none would be willing to take responsibility for him and have all said no to being guardians in the event of something happening. She had a friend who agreed but changed her mind after having another child herself. None of my dad's friends were willing either. This led them to me 21F. I don't have a close relationship with my dad and hardly know his wife at all. I met her twice, I think, and her son once. I don't live with them or rely on them financially. My dad and I might speak once every couple of months if he has something to say, and if not it's like once every 6 months. My dad told me he's considering adopting his wife's son and that it would make him my brother legally then, and in that event I should be willing to at least consider it. But they want me to consider it without the adoption on the table. I told them I would not be willing and did not have to consider it longer. My dad's wife told me she understands I don't know them well, but we could spend more time together and I could see if I would reconsider then. I told her my life is separate from them and that I have no wish for anything closer. I told her the time for that passed when I was a child and dad wasn't around much. My dad told me we could end up close down the line, and then what? How would I look at my brother and tell him I didn't want to be there for him if he lost his parents? I told him it was a good thing I didn't actually have any brother and that they need to figure out an alternative because even if he adopts his stepson I won't be his guardian. While dad's wife has seemingly accepted it, he has not, and he's calling me selfish for not considering it at the very least and for not having a good reason to say no outright. He told me things change and we're talking about a little boy who would be destroyed by the foster system. I told him that is not my problem. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. Your dad is cruel to call you selfish in this case when he himself was not around when you were growing up. Reply. It's easy to ignore that he wasn't around when he decides to start over and pretend everything is peachy. But it's not so easy to forget as the kid. Commenter 2. NTA and the pressure your father is placing on you is deeply unfair and selfish. Your dad is worried about this little boy's future, and to help assuage his anxiety he's trying to guilt you into agreeing to do something you don't want to do, all to relieve his anxiety. So nice to know he cares far more about a child he's not related to, who he met in the last couple of years than the daughter he's known for 21 years. It sounds like you've had more contact with him in the last year than you did for years before that, all because he wants something from you. Reply. In the last 2 months there has been more contact from him than ever. I used to see him one Saturday a month as a kid, and that went to one Saturday every 2 months, and occasionally he would make up for the skipped month by keeping me the weekend, occasionally. In contrast, he has texted almost every day since they first asked me to consider raising his stepson. Commenter 3. Nta. Raising an autistic child is a huge ask, and your dad needs to take no for the answer. Time for stepmom to contact the boy's father's family to make arrangements. Even if your dad was the best parent ever, you are not responsible for the kid. Reply. They're not willing to even be in his life now, so none of the bio father's family are an option. To me that means they need to prepare something else, but it's up to them. Because nobody present in his life is willing, and neither am I. Stories number 10. My husband 32M left me 32F after almost 15 years together and wants me to forget and let him come home. What are my next steps to stop that? My husband and I have been married for almost 2 years, but together for almost 15. He is my only long real boyfriend I have had in my adult life, and we have 2 children together. We have had a rocky relationship from the beginning, if I'm being honest, but the last 3 years have, for the most part, been pretty great. The turning point for our relationship, I feel, was after he got blackout drunk at his friend's wedding and spent the entire 1.5 drive home that I drove him and his friend home from as I was sober, screaming at me and saying nasty things. Since then things had been pretty good. I have been working on myself, have lost weight, putting more effort into myself and my appearance, and have been making new friends. About 5 months ago he woke up one day and told me he wasn't happy with his life or me and wanted to leave. He then decided he was wrong and didn't want to leave. Not to drag it on too much, but a highlight reel of the last 5 months is he has left me 4 to 5 times and comes back every time saying he's sorry. Been unhappy when I have gone for dinner or to see girlfriends. Got blackout drunk again, and behaved horrendously towards me. I can't really talk about it on the thread. Same night as above there was some severe drama with his family. I am also being made to be the villain for telling them this behavior is disgusting, especially since our 2 children were asleep in bed when everything was happening. Called me every name under the sun, often in front of our children. Accused me multiple times of having affairs, with absolutely no suspicions. I didn't realize a few of the things can't be discussed here. His excuses are that he doesn't feel loved enough by me and I'm not affectionate enough. But it's hard to feel affectionate to someone who is treating you like shit. I am getting very little family support and being made to feel guilty for breaking our family up if I don't let him just come back home. But he is never going to change. I guess I'm just looking for some validation and support that I'm making the right decision because I keep being told I'm wrong. What are my next steps to stay strong in my decision to not take him back, and try and establish a healthy co-parenting relationship for our children? Relevant comments. Commenter 1, say no. Keep saying no. Find an attorney, keep all conversations between the lawyers. File for immediate custody pending divorce. Separate finances. Do what the lawyer says. Action first and best steps to staying strong. Commenter 2, separate finances first thing, make it happen tomorrow. Reply, I actually don't even know how to begin separating our finances as everything we have is basically tied up in our business. Commenter 3, imagine if your daughter was going through exactly that. What would you advise her? Please divorce him. Reply, I think about this all the time. Has OOP tried marriage counseling? Reply, tried that twice already at various times, and only agreed to it this time when he knew I was more serious but never even made it to the appointment date. Commenter 4, you've been together since you were teenagers. Time to live your life and figure out who you are without him. Reply, in reflection I think a big part of the escalation has been because I have been starting to find my own self in the last 1 to 2 years. Update. My husband 32M left me 32F after almost 15 years together and wants me to forget and let him come home. What are my next steps? I just wanted to firstly say thank you to everyone for all of your responses. I can't tell you how much they've helped me through this time, and every time I was struggling I went back and looked at them all. I just wanted to address a few things mentioned in the comments and then give an update, so skip to the end if you just want the update. I have spent the last few weeks really thinking about our relationship and the dynamics, and honestly it's difficult to really think about and embarrassing to think I've allowed this for so long. Some background to our relationship and dynamics of my life. We started seeing each other at 15, and on reflection I can see that he was pressuring me even back then to do what he wanted, e.g. pressuring me into losing my virginity when I didn't want to, but thankfully a friend intervened for me. I grew up in a house filled with domestic violence and an extended family that was very dysfunctional from trauma. Around the time we first met, my stepdad, who raised me and separated from my mom about 3 years prior, told me his new partner didn't like me calling me dad, and she was turning my bedroom at his house into her spare room for when her family came to visit, and essentially ended with him abandoning his dad role in my life. The night we started dating at 17 was, in hindsight, deeply troubling. We had been at a local function and had been friends. I was speaking with a mutual friend leading up to this night, and we snuck away to spend time together. When we came back to the function, our mutual friends were laughing about it, and he started screaming at me in front of everyone for hooking up with his friend when I knew he liked me and that I'm a bitch. I followed him out to apologize, no idea what I was apologizing for now, and ended up in a relationship with him. He habitually lied to me about using illicit substances throughout the years. He knew it was a hard limit for me as my relative had passed away from an OD. I know to some people it is a bit ridiculous as it's pretty normal where we are from, but I didn't want to be involved with it in the slightest. He caused friendship breakdowns because friends would come to me and tell me he was using substances, he would deny it and tell me they were lying, and I would end up in arguments with them. He admitted 2 years ago to lying about it because he could see my viewpoint had changed and I was more accepting of it. Our relationship was great for the last 2 to 3 years, 1 to 2 years before our wedding and 1 year after. But on reflection I realize it was because I was just being more obedient to him. I was basically a married single mom and handled everything at home, worked in our business and was the primary parent for our children. Okay, now for the update. I saw everyone's comments about leaving him and running in divorce. That is definitely my plan. But I'm trying to be smart about everything and not rush it and do it on impulse. After my last post I did cave to his pressure and allow him another chance. I told him that I was going to visit my friend's new apartment in the city and go for dinner together. He lost it and tried to forbid from going. I told him I wasn't asking for permission, I was just letting him know. He was yelling and carrying on in front of our children that I either be husband and wife again or he's leaving right now. And I was just overwhelmed and trying to get him to stop, so I agreed. He also admitted to going through my phone to look at my messages with my friend because he didn't trust what I was saying. But shock and horror, a week later he left again. So currently we are not together. He keeps apologizing and telling me he loves me and regrets the things he was saying to me. He keeps asking me, so are you done or do you want to be with me? I reminded him that you left and we're not currently together. I said without real changed behavior I am not willing to be together. And I know that he will not be able to do that because I now realize that I think he is a narcissist, or at least pretty close. In the meantime I have been recording many of our conversations and interactions. I am meeting with a lawyer and speaking with an individual counselor. And trying to get my house in a state for sale without it being obvious. I also forwarded many of our business financial documents to a separate email in case he restricts access to them. His work email is also on my computer as I handled most of his correspondence, and a few days ago he had an email from Snapchat about some password change or something. Not really a huge deal I guess, but I'm pretty confident there is either another specific girl in the picture or he's having casual sex. If there's anything else I should be doing, anything you want clarified, or any thoughts you have, I'd love to hear it. And thank you all again. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. So currently we are not together. Lady, on my hands and knees begging you to stop with this language. It needs to be we are not together period. Reply, you're right, we are not together. Period. I promise it's not changing. Commenter 2. You should take your electronics and car to Geek Squad and a mechanic and checked for a GPS, tracking and spyware. I would also open a new bank account at a bank different from any bank you use as a couple, even if you don't have joint accounts. I would want a separate account at a bank he doesn't know about. I would also run my credit report and keep a close watch on it, and any accounts we share. Reply, the family violence helpline in my area offers help with this, so I was going to be looking into it this week, thank you. Commenter 3, change your passwords and codes. There's a good chance he'll go through your messages again. It's an easy way to keep track of what you're up to. He most likely will, at some point, promise real change with therapy and all that. Have a response ready. This often is said without any intention to actually change, it's just a way to get back. Get a separate bank account if you don't have one. You'll need it. If you have one and he has access to it, cancel that. You do seem to have a good grip on the situation, though. Good luck in your new life. Reply, thank you, I'm going to go through all my passwords on my phone and change them. Who owns the house? Can OOP change the locks? Reply, it's in both our names. Commenter 4, you need to stop going back together with this man. What kind of example are you setting for your children? That it's normal to berate and insult and attack your partner for hours on end? Do you want your children to grow up thinking it's normal to have your partner isolate you to the house and not let you have friends? Seeing these things is going to screw them up for life. When I read your update, it originally sounded like you understood the situation and you were getting out, only to find out a few sentences later that you put yourself right back into the same position, took him back, let him treat you like crap, let him manipulate and control you, and then surprise surprise, dump you again. I know it's hard to leave abusive relationships, but you are not single and this doesn't affect only you, you have to put your children first. Reply, I understand that it reads like that, and I guess it is what happened. But mostly I just wanted to get to my appointment with a lawyer before officially kicking him out so that I knew all my rights, etc., and did everything properly. Because all of our finances are tied up in our business and I don't want him to be able to just take everything and hide it. OOP clarifies on why she hasn't kicked her husband out of the house. Reply, he has never technically left the home. He has left me and stayed in our spare bedroom or left for a night. How exactly do I keep someone out of a home they own jointly with me without divorcing them first? The police in my area will do absolutely nothing unless there is genuine proof of physical violence, which I don't have. And even then it's still difficult to have them removed from the property or pursue anything. Additional information from OOP after reading comments. Reply, I just wanted to say thank you for those who have left genuine feedback and support, but honestly pretty taken aback by how aggressive some of the comments have been with me. I was actually really proud that I've started taking steps to get out. And I fully intend to leave him. But it is a huge milestone in my life to accept that I have allowed myself to be in an abusive relationship, and start the process of leaving the only man I've even been with in 15 years. And I honestly never really did realize it wasn't normal, which you may not understand but it's just my reality. And for the people who keep mentioning why I'm putting my kids through this, I think you're misdirecting your anger a bit there. I'm trying my very best to shield them, and I've almost got everything ready to get us out. I'm so close. But the person doing this to our children, is him. Am I allowing shitty behavior? Absolutely. But I'm not doing it. And I'm actively getting us out. So anyway, I am trying my best, I am leaving, and I hope maybe next time you see a post like this you might be a little kinder than just a lot of insults. Update, my husband 32M left me 32F after almost 15 years together and wants me to forget and let him come home. What are my next steps? Hi all, I wanted to post an update for everyone who gave me advice in my previous posts and helped me through a really difficult time. My soon-to-be ex-husband has been gone from our home for 2 weeks now. It has been 2 weeks filled with crash-outs, love bombing and everything in between. But I have held firm and told him I am completely out of the relationship and want a divorce. I have bought new security cameras for the time being, but want to sell our house and buy my own place as soon as possible. But separating our finances is going to be so difficult. I know I'm only at the very beginning of the journey, but I am feeling so proud of myself and strong in my resolution. And honestly, I haven't even missed him once yet. I feel free. The kids and I can be at home and do what we feel like without worrying if he will have a problem with it. There's no more yelling at home. It's just peaceful, so thank you again for your advice. I probably won't have another update, but thank you all, and if you have any tips or tricks for negotiating custody agreements and divorce, that would be great. I can't tell you how much you all helped me push through the hardest part. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, you've done something incredible. The fact that you stood your ground despite the emotional pressure, that's a huge win. Peace at home and your freedom. Absolutely priceless. Whenever it gets tough, remind yourself why you started this in the first place. One tip, write everything down when it comes to the kids and any agreements, even if things seem fine now. You're in a new chapter, and it's already starting with a victory. Reply, I have a video I watch of one of his outbursts whenever my brain tries to trick me into remembering the good parts to remind myself. And honestly, I only needed to watch it for the first few days. Just fear of the unknown, I guess. And I just kept reminding myself that being scared of the future is far greater than living a future like that. Commenter 2, freeze your credit with all 3 major credit companies. He may turn vindictive very quickly. Reply, I think once he realizes he's lost control he will turn vindictive pretty quick. It's why I want to move through the process as quick as possible. Didn't think of the credit, thank you. OOP needs to get a paper trail going with her husband. Reply, most of our communication over the last 6 months has been through text, so I have so much documentation. Commenter 3, please do not cave into his excuses/love bombing. He will never change, no matter what he says. I've read your other posts, he sounds like a POS. You and your kids will be so much better off without him and his constant screaming, anger and abuse. Focus on yourself and your kids now. You should be very proud of yourself for moving on. I know it's scary and hard, but it will be so worth it. Best of luck and a happy future for you and your children. Reply, I absolutely will not. It's crazy how much you really see when you take off the rose-colored glasses. Thank you, it is a bit scary and definitely hard, but God has it been worth it. Commenter 4, good for you. I'm so proud of you. You're sticking up for yourself and teaching your children that abusive relationships are not okay. You're setting healthy boundaries and teaching your kids to do the same. Rock on. Reply, it's so rewarding thinking about my daughter not learning to accept this bullshit, and my son learning that it is not okay. OOP on her family putting pressure onto her to reconcile with her husband. Reply, they're definitely getting better. I know my mom in particular wishes he would stop all of his behavior and allow us to reconcile. But she has definitely accepted that his behavior won't allow that and has stopped pressuring me. I have also opened up to more extended family who have been more supportive, which is good. Thank you so much. OOP on recordings consent against her husband and take important documents. Reply, recording is legal in my country, only one party needs to consent. And I've taken mine and the kids' passports and birth certificates, and my engagement and wedding rings to my mum's house. Thank you so much. Stories number 11. Aita for still getting on a flight home when my 2 young co-workers I was traveling with weren't at the airport yet and were obviously going to miss it. TLDR, went on a work trip with 2 junior employees not on my team and they missed the flight home because they went sightseeing the day we were leaving. I still got on flight even though they weren't at the airport. This past week I was presented with an industry award in Nashville that an agency partner nominated me for. I am a director at my company. My co decided to send 2 junior-level employees to the event as well because they thought it would be a good experience for them, a specialist who has been with us a little over a year 25F, first job out of college and a summer intern 21F, rising senior. They are not on my team, report up through separate VP, and I have very limited no interaction with them in daily work life. They were very excited to be going. This was going to be the specialist's first time on a plane, lots of Teams chats asking what to wear, etc. We were flying in Thursday morning and leaving Friday evening, so it was a very short trip, but I tried to help share info about the event, types of attendees, awards reception/presentation Thursday night with a country western theme, then I was speaking on a panel Friday morning. There's so much I could say, but I'll try to highlight key points. Specialist barely made Thursday AM flight because she doesn't have a real ID and had to do extra screening. She had no idea what a real ID was, or the basic rules of flying, liquid restrictions, etc. She was very upset they made her throw away some of her skincare that was over 3 ounces. Thursday night event was country western theme, and while a majority of people there were business casual, intern shows up in a bandana tube top, micro skirt, cowboy boots and a cowboy hat. I pulled her aside and asked if she wanted to run upstairs and change since it was still a business event, but she said she was fine and she thought she looked cute and on theme. After ceremony I invite them to join me with some colleagues I knew from other companies in the hotel bar, but they tell me they want to check out Broadway. I make a face and say this would be a good networking opportunity. They make "come on mom" jokes, and so I tell them to be safe and remind them the time and location of first session the next day. Text them around 11 p.m. that I hope they got back safe, no response. Went to bed. Text them the next morning offering to meet them for coffee before morning sessions, no response. No idea if they actually attended any sessions or saw my panel, but I did find them in the hotel lobby afterward looking incredibly hangover. Have about 2 hours after event is over and before we need to go to the airport, I invite them to late lunch with our agency partners. They decline because they want to go to the Country Music Hall of Fame. Again, make a face and say I don't know if they will have time and I think it would be a good opportunity for them to spend time with our agency. They act like I'm the wet blanket, so I tell them I'm leaving for airport from the hotel at 4 p.m. sharp and meet me in lobby so we can share a lift. Text them at 3:45 p.m. that lift is arriving in 15 minutes, no response. Text them that lift has arrived and I'm leaving for airport, no response. Text them when I get to airport and tell them security line is long, neither had pre-check, no response. Text them when I get to gate to please give me some sign of life, in turn sends very short response about 10 minutes later, in lift, there's traffic. Nothing else. Text them flight is starting to board, no response. Text them when I'm in my seat that boarding is about to end, no response. Doors close, they don't make it, put my phone in airplane mode. Land a couple hours later to a barrage of texts from them. They're stranded in Nashville, don't know what to do, how to rebook, who to call for help, etc. I also have an angry voicemail from specialist's mom that I abandoned her daughter in Nashville. She has never flown and has anxiety, she's having a panic attack at the airport and needs medical attention, she could be human trafficked. I call specialist and in turn back, both phones ring but neither pick up. Text to see if they were able to rebook, no response. Forward them email with our business travel info with after hours contact and text them that I sent the email, no response. Texted an hour or so later to see if they were okay, no response. Did not call the mom back. Also have text from their director, don't know her well, just started with a couple weeks ago asking what's going on. I sent her brief overview and screenshots of all my unanswered texts to them from earlier in the day along with the transcript of the VM I got from the mom. She acknowledges my response, but no further dialogue. Now, I get an invite for a Monday morning meeting from that director with their VP and our C-suite leader. My VP is on PTO. I feel like these are adults, I was communicative, and I'm ultimately not responsible for their decisions. But you tell me, Aita here. Comments. Commenter 1. I think that OP went incredibly above and beyond here considering that it was a work event she was receiving an award at, so to have these junior idiots causing any type of fuss was really an unnecessary hassle for her when it should have been a personal celebration. Oh OP, okay, thank you so much for saying this because I took it out of my main post since it was so long already, but I made a short acceptance speech after getting the award. I worked really hard on it and practiced a lot. It was only like 90 seconds but I asked specialist and intern to film it for me because I wanted to share it with my team members who helped me with it. Left my phone with them and everything but they forgot and that kind of upset me. It's obvi not the end of the world but like, come on. Commenter 2. So they even failed at the only job you gave them with explicit instructions, film my speech, official speech at official event. Definitely worth including in your bullet points. Commenter 3. You were there as their co-worker, not as their mother. Firstly, no one should be expecting you to take care of them in that way. They're adults. And even when you did offer them direction and support, they didn't even have the decency to get back to you. And a call from her mom? Good Christ. I would come prepared with documentation and also let your supervisor know, even if they're on PTO, that this is what was happening. Commenter 4. The call from her mom is what really gets me. As an adult, I fully understand calling your mom for help when you're panicked, like this girl stuck at the airport with no flying experience. I would 100% call my mom if I were panicking in that situation. My mom, however, would help me get my shit together and clam down and solve the problem myself, not call another person on the business trip and yell at them for leaving me stranded. That far crosses the line. Commenter 5. They seem to have mistaken a business trip for a vacation. Also they acted irresponsibly around time, dressing, and networking possibilities. None of this is your fault. You are not their mother. You treated them like the adults they are, the fact that they didn't act like adults is not on you. NTA. Commenter 6. After their behavior on this trip, I'll be surprised if they ever get a chance to go on another company-funded trip, let alone still have a job. Commenter 7. Confirming you are female. Read the come on mom comment. This shouldn't be, but is this a gendered issue that your company sent a senior female to do work and babysit 2 junior females? I can understand never having flown before, but you went above and beyond to look after and help them. They aren't you direct reports and frankly they didn't do their job of actually benefiting from your experience and network. They took it as a chance to have a holiday. If a colleague of mine was late, I wouldn't be expected to miss my flight to help them. What you did was again above and beyond in trying to organize grown adults. Re the meeting, if the people in attendance can impact your performance/bonus etc., I would strongly suggest emailing them to ask them what the meeting is about and reschedule when your VP is back. If you don't want to trouble your VP, I think that is fine also, but you should be prepared to make this an uncomfortable conversation for them as to why they think it's okay to send 2 junior female employees to be babysit by another senior female employee. Would they expect this from a male colleague? My guess is probably not. Good luck and update us. Reply, thanks for this comment. I don't want to make this a gender issue, but if the meeting does turn on me on Monday, I have been trying to find a way to professionally say, if it had been male counterpart on my team, who went on this trip with the same outcome, would you be having the same conversation? Interestingly, perhaps, everyone on the meeting invite on Monday is a woman. My VP is male but on PTO so won't be in attendance. Commenter 8. I think that OP went incredibly above and beyond here considering that it was a work event she was receiving an award at, so to have these junior idiots causing any type of fuss was really an unnecessary hassle for her when it should have been a personal celebration. Reply, okay, thank you so much for saying this because I took it out of my main post since it was so long already, but I made a short acceptance speech after getting the award. I worked really hard on it and practiced a lot. It was only like 90 seconds, but I asked specialist and intern to film it for me because I wanted to share it with my team members who helped me with it. Left my phone with them and everything, but they forgot, and that kind of upset me. It's obviously not the end of the world, but like, come on. Commenter 9. So they even failed at the only job you gave them with explicit instructions: film my speech, official speech at official event. Definitely worth including in your bullet points. Update. Meeting over CMO didn't join. It was other VP and director, plus the internship coordinator, who is an HR VP, asked all the questions. It was over Teams, on camera, recorded, almost comically formal, like I was being deposed or something. During the meeting, was asked to recap what happened, starting from when we arrived. I was prepared, had all my key points. Kept it factual on my actions, no speculation on their actions. I shared my phone screen live, went through the text messages with timestamps and the voicemail from specialist's mom. I was asked if I had requested or encouraged specialist to put any expenses on her P card. This question took me by surprise. I said I didn't even ask or consider that she had a P card, and beside the lift from airport to hotel, which I scheduled/paid for, I was never outside of the hotel/official conference activities with either specialist or intern that would have required any sort of payment. I did say I would consider it to be her line manager's responsibility to make sure she understood our travel and expense policies prior to traveling. I was asked if at any point I had reached out to anyone at the office about anything that was transpiring, to which I said no. I certainly intended to when I returned, but we are talking about everything that happened within a 32-ish hour window, all while I was trying to focus on what I was sent there to do: participate as a panel member at the conference, attend other presentations, take advantage of face-to-face time with our agency, and accepting my award. I said I felt it was reasonable to believe any other attendees would have expectations for participation and outcomes set by their leadership team, especially when coming from another department, where I wouldn't be knowledgeable about their goals and objectives. Similarly, if there were different expectations of me based on other co-attendees, I would expect that to be clearly communicated in advance. I was not asked if I thought intern and/or specialist should receive any sort of reprimand, and I didn't feel comfortable trying to interject something like that based on the flow of conversation. I'm under the impression that they're meeting with specialist and intern separately, but my meeting was first. After the meeting, I debriefed with a trusted colleague, who shared the following from Friday water cooler chats. I definitely offended intern by pulling her aside about her outfit. She posted it to Snapchat with a caption about it, and some other employees saw it. Dying to know what exactly it said, but coworkers said everyone who did see it agreed it was inappropriate for a work event. Allegedly, specialist's mom had once called previous director who left. Director in meeting today replaced him about specialist's working hours. It is known that several months ago specialist was pulled off a high-profile project team. Apparently, when she was asked to put in some evening and weekend hours to meet a deadline, mom called director and complained. Don't know if I believe this to be true, but mom stepping in could be a pattern. What I'm hoping helps validate my testimony is separately on Friday, one of my agency partners I was with emailed my CMO about a conversation we had after the ceremony on Thursday evening with some ideas he had. Typical agency sales-wise stuff, but he also unknowingly corroborated my alibi on Thursday night. So, that's where we are at. Last night I had convinced myself this all would result in me receiving a big apology or acknowledgement of wrongdoing, and that I shouldn't have had to deal with this, etc. But I didn't, which makes me feel this is still a bit unresolved. I did send all my notes to my VP on Sunday, but his PTO is medical related and I know he's not able to really check in, so just keeping my head down until I hear anything else. Comments. Commenter 1. Sounds like they paid for random stuff using their company card and tried to blame you for it. I'd be shocked if they keep their jobs. Commenter 2. Thank you for this update. You won't get an apology. That's not how this works. One of the leadership may tacitly acknowledge that their behavior was wrong, but your involvement in this saga is over. My prediction, this is a career-limiting event for both of them. Intern will not be receiving an offer, and specialist will be terminated for using her P card for unapproved items. The termination will actually be for her helicopter mother, but on paper it'll be for expense policy violations. Commenter 3. Nah, both will be fired for unprofessionalism during their trip, with the additional violation for the specialist charging improper stuff as well. The specialist is really screwed because she will lose out on income and benefits. The intern is probably still in college so she can go through entry-level recruitment, but it's still going to be a pain, and it's a small world, so news of the intern's behavior will spread. The punishments they are getting match with how much both of them fucked up. Stories number 12. Aita for not allowing my daughter to visit her dad without her dog. My ex divorced 9 years and I have a 14-year-old daughter who sees them 2 to 3 weekends a month, depending on their work schedule. We have no official custody or visitation agreement in place. 3 months ago, my ex moved their girlfriend in after dating for 6 weeks. He says he's too old to do the silly dating thing and has decided to move on full throttle with her. Okay, fine. His life. I've met her 3 times during drop-offs and she seemed fine. I remarried 3 years ago and we have all co-parented very well. Okay, now on to the issue. My daughter has a chronic disease and an extensively trained service dog because of this. She's a German Shepherd if that makes any difference. We got her approximately 8 months ago. She was nearly 20k, so it took a lot of financial finagling and research for my ex and my spouse and I to both find and purchase her. She has been a godsend. Before Sherry came along, my daughter had wicked anxiety about going anywhere, especially school or out in public. She is, of course, medicated, but has breakthrough episodes which her MD attributes to puberty. She is closely monitored, but she still has them. Before Sherry, she would refuse to go anywhere for days at a time and we ended up having a tutor come in so that she could keep up with schoolwork. I refused to completely homeschool her because I feel that if I did she would withdraw from society completely. Enter Sherry, who has made a huge difference in her life. She goes everywhere with her, is a star at my daughter's high school and my daughter has actually become almost extroverted. She has even joined theater club and is currently attending a summer workshop on it. She says just knowing that Sherry is with her lessens her anxiety as now she knows when something is going to happen and that coming to with Sherry curled up next to her comforts her and makes her know that she's safe during them. Now the issue. Guess what girlfriend's name is? You guessed it. First, she demanded we change the dog's name. I laughed and said that that was not an option. Again, highly trained dog. You don't just go around changing an animal's name, anyway. And, she's almost 3 years old, I told girlfriend if she didn't like sharing her name with a dog, she could change hers. That didn't go over well. Yesterday, my daughter came home crying saying girlfriend is insisting that when daughter visits, Sherry should remain at home. I said absolutely not. I told my ex and his reply was, daughter didn't have to dog for years and she was okay. She'll be okay now. I know what to do. I said that his knowing what to do wasn't the issue. I said that our daughter was not okay before, she was anxious, borderline agoraphobic and miserable. He called me a drama queen and said if she brings Sherry with her she can't come. I said fine. She won't be visiting. He said I was guilty of parental alienation and would take me to court if necessary. I said bring it on, my daughter is torn. She doesn't want to be without Sherry, but she also wants to visit her dad. So AIK, relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA. Would your ex insist that your daughter leave a prosthetic limb at home, if his girlfriend didn't like it? I can't imagine any decent family court judge not telling this guy to get his fucking priorities straight and, yes, I have heard a family court judge tell someone this, ironically, because he prioritized his dogs over his kid. Reply. The kicker is that my ex is actually allergic to dogs. He's been getting shots and taking antihistamines so that he can deal with Sherry. And when her neurologist suggested looking into a service dog he didn't blink. But girlfriend has to be coddled because of her name. Make it make sense. Commenter 2, NTA. And let the judge rake him over the coals in court. Sherry isn't a dog, she's a medical device. Would dad be allowed to leave an insulin pump or asthma inhaler at home because he knows what to do? No, he would not. Commenter 3. Exactly. Frame it like that and see what he says. Human Sherry can get a nickname or something. Commenter 4. I think that she should just go by Human Sherry and if she doesn't like that then I'm sure OP and her daughter can come up with some ideas. Reply. Well, since this became an issue, I really focused on how often the actual name Sherry was said in a day. I mean, my daughter will say, come on girl, or my precious baby and things like that instead of her name, so I really think girlfriend is just making a thing out of nothing to stir the pot. Commenter 5. NTA. If I were you I'd tell him he either does the visits at his house or not at all. He's treating his own daughter like she's an inconvenience. He's choosing to get his dick wet over being a good dad. Reply. I don't want my daughter or Sherry at his house with girlfriend there. I don't trust her not to do something because she's furious about this post my ex-SL kindly shared it with her. The darling and my daughters say she was already snarky to them before all this happened. Update with some clarifications. so I sent the link to this post to my ex and he responded by calling my daughter and apologizing. He's still being an as he is saying that they will do visits at his mom's house a couple of streets away from him as it still makes girlfriend upset hearing her name referring to a dog, whatever. So, for now, this is what they've worked out. He's happy, daughter is happy. She told me she really doesn't like girlfriend but has been polite and Sherry stays where she belongs, with daughter. One thing I would like to point out, girlfriend's name is spelled Sherry with a little accent over the last E and pronounced Shuare whereas our girl is plain old Sherry like Berry, so I think this was just girlfriend stirring the pot. Thank you all for helping me show X where his priorities should be. I originally put her diagnoses and the purpose of Sherry in the post but it was flagged and removed for seeing medical advice. She has a disorder that starts with E and ends with Y. Sherry is a seizure response dog. The fact that she lessens my daughter's anxiety about not knowing when a seizure is coming on and having one in public is a huge bonus, but not the main purpose of Sherry's training. For the idiot who told me Sherry couldn't be an actual service animal because real ones don't cost money, no. She went through a year and a half of training and we could only afford her because my parents put a second mortgage on their house and my ex, current spouse, and I all worked a second job until we had enough. We are not wealthy. I'm a CNA, my husband is a mechanic and my ex manages a restaurant. We looked into organizations that subsidize the cost of a service animal, but the waiting lists were 3 years or more and we needed a dog now. We had to drive halfway across the country to pick her up. All those saying she is a medical device are 100% spot on. For now, my daughter is going to spend my ex's weekends with his mother who loves Sherry as much as we do, and he is going to hang out with her there. He knows he's effed up, his mother and both of his sisters have all torn him new ones. But it takes him time to admit when he's wrong because he's a stubborn SOB. This post has opened his eyes, but it also ticked him off to no end being called out. Older daughter says that Asael went over and told girlfriend off, but didn't provide details and I'm trying really hard to be adult and not pump her for info lol. For those saying he's going to baby trapped, he had a vasectomy, thank goodness. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. So daughter and dad only see each other at grandma's house now, and this is expected to go on for, how long? Daughter will always have the medical condition. Is this an acknowledgement that the girlfriend is a short-term thing, or a naive belief that one's daughter and one's girlfriend can be mutually exclusive and separate parts of one's life? Reply. I think he sees this as a compromise to get girlfriend off his back. My daughter loves staying with her grandma and, at this point wants nothing to do with girlfriend so she's very happy with the arrangement. And, if I know my ex-MIL, she is going to make him squirm every time he's over there. Evil laugh. Commenter 2. I am baffled by the childish behavior of the GF. It is not like you purposely named the dog with the same name. If I am not mistaken the dog came to you with that name, not that it matters. I hate to say my opinion or to sound harsh but your ex needs to prioritize his daughter and although I am there in the same house I can just imagine the manipulation of the GF that goes on in that house. The moment a new partner starts to try and establish dominance or some sense of hierarchy I think a relationship is going to suffer. Reply. She did come with that name and we were advised not to change it by the trainer. X knows this. X also knows that trainer stated that Sherry should not go extended periods or even frequent short periods away from daughter as it will not only cause her anxiety since my daughter is her reason to be in their words as well as possible affect her training. He's just currently an idiot in the midst of a mid-late life crisis. Commenter 3. Also, what the doesn't understand is that stress is a major trigger for her illness. Not having her there could set off episodes and what is he going to do if he steps out for something? Does this GF know what to do if she has an episode? Can you be sure she would even help the daughter if she had one? See as there is animosity between them over her support animal's name. Reply. When she first moved in my ex tried to show her how to use my daughter's rescue med, which is in a nasal spray form and she was oh I don't need to learn. You or older sister will be here to do it. This I didn't find out until my daughter told me she didn't want the dog there. Girlfriend is racking up the strikes. Commenter 4. NTA as someone who lost my little brother to a grand mal seizure, anything that can help reduce seizures takes precedence over someone's fragile ego. My brother was epileptic since he was a kid. As a teenager he was so used to them, that he decided they weren't a big deal. And definitely not worth doing all the boring things that helped reduce them. To be fair, we did not really know they could be fatal either. The doctors never mentioned it, and always focused on ensuring he didn't hurt himself during the seizures. But he died in bed. From a big seizure that might have been preventable. Before he was even 20 years old. So yeah, new girlfriend and dad are terribly selfish people. Reply. I am so sorry for your loss. Teens think they're indestructible, sadly. This happening to daughter is one of our greatest fears, and daughter even slept with her sister for years. Her wish not our pushing it because she was afraid, too. This is another way Sherry has given her back her freedom and peace of mind. My daughter sleeps well knowing Sherry will bark and alert us during the night for an emergency. How much younger is human Sherry than her ex, for those wondering? About 15 years, I'd say. Stories number 13. Aita for refusing to let my mom wear white to my wedding, even though she claims it's her last chance to feel beautiful. I just turned 23 and I'm getting married in October. My mom and I have always had what I would refer to as rocky relationship, especially since I got engaged. She's been oddly competitive, commenting on my body, comparing our rings, like we are in a competition, saying things like this day is as much about me as it is about you. I honestly thought she was joking until she showed me the dress she bought, a white, floor-length gown that looks exactly like a bridal dress. And I told her, flat out, she cannot wear that because in my opinion it doesn't match the occasion. She got quiet, then burst into tears, saying it's her and this was an opportunity to feel beautiful before getting old and that I'm selfish for not letting her have this one thing. I felt really bad about this, so I also offered to go shopping with her to find something elegant and more appropriate. And all of a sudden her countenance changed and then she told me I was controlling and ungrateful. What gave me peace was that my fiancé backed me up, as did my maid of honor. Now my mom is threatening not to come to the wedding, and my aunt says I should just let her have this to avoid drama. I don't think I'm wrong for drawing a line here, but now part of me wonders if Aita comments. Commenter 1. Now my mom is threatening not to come to the wedding. Your mother is extremely manipulative. Take her up on that offer. NTA. Commenter 2. Might as well not let her ruin your wedding before cutting her off. Let her know if she wears a white dress there's usually multiple women that will spill their red wine on her and that you'll also have the photographer Photoshop it into a dishwater gray. Might need security. I'm sorry your mom is this unhinged. Commenter 3. No wonder you have a rocky relationship. She's a narcissist who has you so damn gaslit you don't see the forest for the trees. Or the bridle for the gown. Don't let your aunt gaslight you either. Frankly, if they're pulling shit like this now I say don't invite either of them to the wedding. And be really clear as to why. Because, no, mom. This day is not as much about you as it is your daughter. What the actual fuck? Stories number 14. Aita for saying if my dad wanted a better relationship with me he should have focused on that instead of getting married and having more kids. TLDR version, dad wasn't around for me 17m or mom who died when I was 13. He kept money from us, didn't spend time with us, would curse at me when I tried to spend time with him. He was like a roommate. Then he started dating someone when I was 15 and was more involved with her and then her kids and even had a baby with her before he tried anything with me. Then he got us therapy where he apologized and I didn't engage until our last session where I told him he should have focused on repairing our relationship before getting married again and having more kids. My 17m dad was never around for me. He and my mom were married, he lived in the same house as us, but he felt more like a roommate than a dad/husband. He worked full-time and mom worked part-time and eventually full-time when I turned 8. Even when they both started working full-time he was more interested in fixing up cars and working than being with us. It wasn't like he was a great provider either. There were times we didn't have enough and he would tell mom there wasn't more money to buy groceries or whatever. Those were times mom had to go to her family and ask for help. But something I found out after mom died is that he always had money. He saved a shitload of money fixing those cars and selling them. He just kept that money away from us. When I was little I so wanted him to be more of a regular dad who spent time with me and would let me hang out with him. But he locked himself into the garage most nights and the few nights he didn't do that he invited his friends over and they watched a game or something. Whenever I tried to join he'd tell me to find my mom or play by myself and I was too young to hang out with him or them. He wouldn't let me help when he was fixing up cars either. There were times he'd yell at me to get the fuck away because I was trying to get him to let me in. My mom would always try to talk dad into doing more with me but he dismissed it. Sometimes I wonder if she was afraid of him or whether she had really bad self-esteem because I could never figure out why she stayed. She threw everything into filling in the gaps he left in my life and she did everything else she could for me except leaving him. I loved my mom. I still love my mom. When she got sick it broke me and when she died it shattered everything. It was after mom died that I gave up on dad. Even me losing mom at 13 didn't make him wake the fuck up and do better or try because I was now without the only parent who truly raised me. It was 2 years after mom died when dad started spending time with a woman. It went from her and her 2 kids and then they suddenly lived in the house and then they were married. Then she was pregnant. Seeing my dad be such a different husband and dad/dad figure was a mindfuck. He helped his wife with chores, spent time with her and praised her. He spent time with her kids like he never did with me. He even went to the different appointments. He put a photo of the ultrasound and his wife and stepkids in his wallet. There was never one of me or mom in there. It was almost a year ago that dad started reaching out to me. I rejected him and he signed us up for family therapy. We go twice a month. He says he wants to make our relationship better and that he wants to be a better dad to me. That he regrets not being there when I was growing up and he's sorry I felt like I only had one parent and then none. That he's sorry he wasn't better and more engaged and for all the times he pushed me away and cursed at me and reacted in anger to me wanting time with him. He says he wants to finally do the right thing and be the dad to me that he was always supposed to be. But all of this came after he moved on and started a new family. It even comes after he spent a lot of that money he saved while mom was alive on his wife's kids and on their new baby. He even bought his wife a new car from it. I got nothing and that money was saved largely when mom was alive. It was such a fucked up thing to see. I didn't say anything in therapy for almost a year. I didn't want to be there. I told him that before we started therapy. But I wasn't given much of a choice. I do make it hard for him to get more sessions in because I work a lot when I'm not in school. Over and over again I have been asked to speak or to say how I felt about what dad said or to respond in some way to his apology. But I never said anything. Then the therapist asked to speak to me alone and she told me she knows I don't want to be there but at least if I open up and say something, anything, she could help dad to accept the reality and that she didn't know if I wanted to fix things but make him suffer first or wanted nothing to do with him. So the session after that one I told him that he was too late and if he wanted a better relationship with me he should have focused on that before marrying again and having more kids because it was just me coming last again. He swore it wasn't true and he was sorry if that hurt me but he wanted to make it work now and he'd work on it now. I told him what I said stands. The therapist tried to make him accept it but he told me I was punishing him unfairly. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. He doesn't get to be an absent parent your whole life then want to step up when you're months away from being an adult. Keep working and saving your money so that after you graduate you can leave, go no contact, and never look back. Are you in contact with your mom's side of family? Reply. I'm in contact with mom's side of my family. I spend some extra time over there too so I don't have to always witness dad being the family man he never was when I was growing up and when mom was alive. Commenter 2. NTA, not even a little bit. I went through something incredibly similar. My biological father was technically present, like physically in the same house, attending events, but emotionally and mentally? Never. He was more invested in his job and hobbies than in being a parent. Like yours, he'd snap at me when I wanted his attention. I remember being a kid just wanting to help him fix something and getting screamed at to leave mind my business. That stuff sticks with you. After my mom passed, things just fell apart. I was grieving and he didn't step up, just got more distant. I moved in with my aunt and uncle. Then suddenly he finds a new woman, plays happy family with her and her kids, and acts like they deserved the version of him I always wished for. And just like you, I found out he had resources he never shared with us. He was just choosing where to put his energy and love, and it wasn't me or mom. We did the therapy thing too after a few years down the line. He cried, apologized, said he regretted everything. But to me it felt like he was trying to fix his conscience, not our relationship. Like he wanted peace, not us to heal. In the end, I didn't feel like any of this was for my benefit. I tried, but no amount of therapy could undo the years of neglect. It's not about revenge, it's about protecting your peace when someone has consistently shown you where you stand in their priorities. You're not punishing him, you're being honest about your experience and your boundaries. And that's more than he ever gave you. You're absolutely not the asshole. Stay strong, man. You deserved better from the start. Reply. I'm really sorry you had those experiences too. It does something to you when a parent is physically present in your space but not in your life. He never made it to anything. Father's Day wasn't really celebrated because he preferred to be alone. Anytime I had a Father's Day related activity it was easier to skip it than bring mom because it would bring up questions neither of us liked answering. Because everyone knew my parents were married and living together, I so relate to feeling like he chose not to put his energy and love into us. The money is probably a smaller part for me but also not, because he had helped via mom to save that and used it on the second family. That is incredibly messed up. The reason I say he had help is because there would be less in it if mom hadn't worked her ass off and asked for help to keep us fed. He'd have needed to buy stuff to eat and even bills and stuff. I hate him now that I know he was saving all that money and used it for them and not us. Reply commenter 2, I try to remind myself, and it sounds like you do too, that we were incredibly lucky to have strong mothers who did show up, who filled in all the gaps they could. That kind of love leaves a mark too, the good kind. I think about how we carry these lessons forward, not with bitterness, but with purpose. To show up differently. To be emotionally present. To never let our kids feel like they come second. That's how we break the cycle. You're not alone in this, and I have no doubt that you'll make an amazing parent someday, because you already know the value of being there in every sense of the word. Commenter 3, NTA. Your dad gave up on you during your childhood years, when you needed him, as a dad and as a provider. He withheld his time, his emotional effort and his money from you and your mother. Now that you are nearly an adult and need much less support and work on his part, he wants to be a dad, which really means to enjoy the benefits of being a dad when he didn't put in any of the effort. You don't owe him that. No, you are not being unfair, you are just not letting him get what he wants when he wants it, when he doesn't deserve it. And more important, when you don't want to give it. Reply, it wouldn't surprise me too much if he was hoping I'd get close with the kids and be cool babysitting them for free too. Or that he was looking for me to hype him up as an amazing dad when he was far from it to me. Commenter 4, maybe I am leading by the example I was taught as a child. You punished me unfairly. I learned that. You got your do-over family and suddenly you care about them. You changed for them, but years later you remembered you had me and now you care enough to try. After me desperately wanting something from you. Me grieving for my only parent alone and me watching you father other children when you never did for me. Now you want to try. I don't, Dad. You have repeatedly let me down and I am happy with the relationship we have for now. It will never get better, but it will be on my terms when I hit 18 and never yours again. Stories number 15. Aita for refusing to change jobs because of my friend's girlfriend. I 23 recently moved to Seoul and got a job as a stage performer at a local club. I'm in good shape, so my job involves putting on shows for female audiences, dancing, interacting with them on stage, going into the crowd, etc. It's physically demanding work, and sometimes I get inappropriately touched, like getting scratches on my torso, which sucks since my looks are part of my income. But the pay is good, and I really need the money. Here's why: my older brother recently battled a serious illness, lost his income, and my parents drained their savings to help him. Before this, they could support me financially, now it's my turn to help them. Enter my best friend J 25M, who's lived in Seoul for years with his girlfriend Annie 27F. Recently, Jay used his work bonus to buy front row tickets to my show. Big mistake. During my performance, where I'm required to interact with front row attendees, I approached their section. Annie wrapped her arms around me, ran her hands over my body, and basically clung to me for several seconds. Standard work stuff. I was about to move on when Jay started yelling at me to get away from his girl and shoved me slightly. Our club's protocol: when guys get jealous, we're trained to immediately disengage and redirect. No arguing, just exit the situation. This isn't my first rodeo with jealous boyfriends, so when Annie full-on groped me during my crowd walk standard for my role, and Jay started shoving/yelling, I followed protocol and walked away. After the show, Jay sent then deleted some angry voice messages before sending a final text. He apologized for attacking me but said Annie is obsessed with me and demanded a face-to-face talk, his idea. At coffee, he dropped a bomb. Annie won't stop talking about me. Her touching me was inappropriate. He insisted I quit my job. I said no. This income supports my family. Audience interaction is mandatory. I can't pick and choose. He brought her to my workplace, knowing what my job entails. Jay accused me of encouraging her, gave a quit or we're done ultimatum, and blocked me everywhere when I stood my ground. Now I'm sitting here like WTF. Aita for prioritizing my family's financial needs over my friend's jealousy. English is not my first language. Top comments. Commenter 1, Jay must think you cherish his friendship more than you do a steady paycheck. Time to let him know he's not that important. NTA. Commenter 2, wow. Guy took his girlfriend to a show where the male performer interacts with the audience, and got mad at the performer for doing his job. What a wanker. OP, you don't need friends like that, be glad he blocked you. Commenter 3, NTA. He's mad at the wrong person. He should be mad at Annie. Your friend is letting his insecurities cloud his judgment. You do you. I don't see their relationship lasting long. Update, Aita for refusing to change jobs because of my friend's girlfriend. Okay, folks, buckle up. 2 weeks have passed since my last post, and shit has escalated with Jay and Annie. Recap for context, I work as a stage performer at a club in Seoul. My job involves dancing and interacting with female audiences, yes, that kind of interaction. My best friend Jay brought his GF Annie to my show. She got way too handsy. Jay lost his shit, demanded I quit my job, and blocked me when I refused because, you know, I need the money to support my family. Original story in my account. Now, the update, after the blow-up, Annie started showing up to my shows alone. Every damn night. When I'd do crowd walkthroughs, she'd grope me, squeal in my ear, and generally act like these weirdo girls at some K-pop concert. It made me uncomfortable, so I told my manager. Manager's response? She's not breaking rules, she paid for tickets, suck it up and earn your paycheck. Cool. Very professional. Then, last week, I got a weird DM. When I ignored it, more messages flooded in. Spoiler, it was Annie. No clue how she got my number. Jay probably didn't give it to her, so my guess. My manager give it. Some guys at our club offer private shows for extra cash, you get the idea. I don't do that shit, and the manager knows, but hey, money talks. I politely told Annie I wasn't interested. She either didn't care or didn't process it, because she kept spamming me, texts, calls, even video chats. She texted me, "Do you ever think about me when you're alone, shit? Bro, no." I blocked her, but I'm just waiting for her to show up with a burner number at this point. I asked a mutual friend to explain the situation to Jay. Radio silence for days. Meanwhile, Annie kept coming to shows. Then, last week, she waited outside the club and followed me to my dorm, trying to chat me up and babbling about how we'd be perfect together. Okay, Reddit, be honest, am I missing something here? Because from where I'm standing, this is next level delulu. I repeated, not interested, but she just ignored it. Finally shook her off at the dorm entrance. At this point, I was done. Had our mutual friend message Jay again because, seriously, this is insane. Jay finally replied. His take? He still thinks I'm the asshole here because now Annie throws full-blown tantrums whenever he tries to go to the club with her. Apparently she only wants to go when she knows I'm performing, and if Jay suggests going together, she loses it and accuses him of not trusting her. He said I lead her to this. But fine, he'll talk to her. Cut to the next time Annie ambushed me after work a few days ago. This time, though, she looked crushed. Asked why I kept rejecting her. I said, "You're gorgeous, but you're not my type, and you're dating my best friend." She started crying, called me a lying asshole, and left. Honestly, I'm shocked it worked. No idea what happens next, but fingers crossed Jay actually got through to her. So, Aita for not quitting my job and somehow ending up in this telenovela. Top comments. Commenter 1, try to never be alone with her. Never drink/eat anything she offers you. Don't ever compliment her again. Never ever tell her she's pretty, cause she will think, well, he does think I'm pretty, he told me so. If she's nuts, don't give her any way to have hope about you. Stay safe. Commenter 2, you shouldn't have told her she was gorgeous. Yes, you were trying to be nice, but she'll twist it into that being the only thing she heard and forget all about the rejection part. Keep it at a simple no, not interested, and walk away. Commenter 3, don't compliment her again and don't mention your best friend. She might dump Jay in the belief that it'll free you to date her. She's stalking you. Report her harassment to campus security and the police. Stories number 16. Aita for refusing to take my ex-wife to the ER. This incident occurred a decade ago, but recently came up in conversation with my oldest son, who was 7 at the time. While I believed I was justified in the moment, over the years I have come to the conclusion that I am not proud of my actions that day. My son maintains that I did the right thing. 6 months prior to the incident, my wife and I had agreed to divorce after her extramarital activities came to light. We agreed on everything except who would keep the house. I told her that unless she took over the mortgage and utilities that I would not be leaving. 2 months prior, when it was evident that I was staying put, she made a play to remove me from the home and had me served with a 2-week TRO. Caught off guard, I rented a room with a coworker in the neighborhood and hired a lawyer. I followed all the rules, went to court, answered all of the judge's questions, and the TRO was revoked. After 3 weeks I was back in my house and she was angrier than ever. I'm including this background only because it explains my combative state of mind during the event. 2 weeks prior, I took my kids out of state to visit family for Christmas and New Year's. I asked Amy, my soon-to-be ex-wife, to shovel the walk and porch stairs while we were away. She didn't, and upon our return there was 2 inches of ice on the stairs and sidewalk. The day after we returned, Amy had arranged to meet up with a Craigslister to buy a piece of furniture for the house she had rented. She was going with her friend Lisa, who had also set up a CL purchase of her own. When Lisa pulled into the driveway, Amy hurriedly ran out the door, slipped on the icy porch steps, and landed on a ceramic planter, cutting her hand open. It wasn't a life-or-death situation, but there was blood and she did need stitches. She came back in, freaking out. I told her to go wrap it up and have Lisa take her to the ER. Meanwhile, Lisa had come up to the door to see what the commotion was about. I told Lisa that she needed to take Amy to the ER. Lisa said she wasn't going to blow off her CL meetup, and that I should take her. I said that ER visits weren't part of my role anymore. Lisa accused me of acting abusively. I sarcastically asked her why she would want to leave her friend dependent on her abuser. Ultimately, Lisa left for her meetup, and I packed up the kids and dropped off Amy at the ER. I let her find her own way home. If you had asked me the next day, I would have said I acted righteously and that Lisa should have stepped up for her friend. With the clarity of time, I feel that I should have swallowed my pride and better demonstrated for my kids how a father should act. Lay it on me. Edit, I see many comments suggesting she could have driven herself. We owned only manual cars, and her injury would have made her unable to shift gears. Comments. Commenter 1. LOL, lay what on you? You did what you were asked, albeit begrudgingly, totally allowed, and went on your way. She set herself up for that. NTA. When someone cheats on you, a divorce is granted and a marriage is terminated, any obligations are nixed. You can be nice, be civil, but be for you and your kids. She has Lisa. Reply. LOL, lay what on you? That's sweet, sweet judgment. Commenter 2. So your ex-wife refused to clear the walkway and her friend needed a trip to the ER because of it. You're NTA, but your ex sure as hell is. Reply. It was my ex who ended up in the ER. Her friend should have taken her, IMO, but did not. Commenter 3. NTA, but NTA just covers what you're not, with no indication of what you are. The older, wiser version of you has realized what it takes to be good. Stories number 17. A female colleague wants to meet up after having rejected me previously. What should I do? In June I met a colleague who I really liked. I normally don't date people I work with, but in my profession we work mostly alone, so I didn't expect to continue working with her in the future. After texting for a week I decided to ask her out on a date. She seemed really excited and even started planning our date. She asked if I was willing to take her to the beach on my motorcycle and we could have a swim together. The problem was that we were both working a lot and we couldn't find a day when we were both free. She called me a few days later on FaceTime and we talked for an hour. She walked around and showed me her house and clothes, did her makeup, etc. I have never had a girlfriend and really enjoyed having someone take an interest in me. 2 days after that, I asked her if we should try to decide on a day to meet up. I got a long text about how she had started speaking to someone she really liked and that she wanted to be honest with me. I got really sad but told her it was okay. What confused me was how she got from being really excited and planning the date, texting me every day and calling me, to not wanting to meet up after just 2 days. Apparently they became a couple. I tried forgetting about her, but apparently we will work together 2 shifts in a row, today and tomorrow. She wrote to me yesterday that she was looking forward to it and that she still wanted to ride my motorcycle. I asked if her boyfriend was okay with that and she told me they broke up. What does she want? Am I a fool if I go ahead with our plan to meet up and take a trip to the beach? I don't know what to feel anymore. Stories number 18. Aita for kicking my boyfriend out of my place after he demanded I apologize before speaking to him. I'm a 27F and I've been dating my boyfriend 27M for 7 months. For context, I'm currently going through a long 1.5-year divorce due to domestic violence, which also included a lot of psychological abuse. When I met him I wasn't looking for a relationship, but it just happened. My boyfriend knew about this from the start, and in the beginning everything was nice and easy, just some fun dates, movie nights, some nice weekend little trips. About 2 months in, he told me his family was being evicted and asked if he could move in with me. I live in a nice house that's a co-living, I have roommates, so I don't exactly have a ton of space, especially because I already have a small dog. But I said yes, I know how it feels, don't have a place to go. Also I was planning on moving at the end of the year anyway, and I thought it would be temporary, at least that's what he promised me. When he moved in, I notified the property management and added him to the lease. That bumped my rent up by $250 a month. On top of that, all the other bills and expenses like utilities, groceries, dog food, gas, adding him to my insurance, pretty much everything were being covered by me. He gave me some money to help cover the rent increase and to cover some bills for the first 2 months, but he was unemployed and job hunting. I have a stable job, and by being careful with my budget, I was able to support us both. Also he does some jobs here and there, not too much money, but it's some money, like $30 or $40, sometimes $100 a week. Things were fine for a few weeks, but then we adopted another dog. That's when I started feeling really stressed. I was suddenly the only one financially responsible for 4 living beings, me, him, and the 2 dogs. Also he started complaining about the dogs, about the responsibility that is walking them, cleaning after them, and that I wasn't giving him enough attention because I work 10-hour days, go to gym, study, attend therapy twice a week, and on top of that I wanted to take care of the house and spend time with my dogs. We talked and I told him I understood, but I asked that since he wasn't working and had more free time, could he take over caring for the house and the dogs? That way, we could actually spend more time together without me being buried in chores after work. But things just kept getting more stressful. I think he feels less than me because I'm the one supporting us, but that's not something I can fix for him. I even suggested and opened a joint bank account for us, just for him to don't feel like he was taking advantage of me. I was transferring to that account just the money necessary for our shared bills, and some spend money. I never pressured him to contribute, but always told him that I was appreciating his contributions. He became cold, distant, and even rude. Every time I brought it up, he'd flip it back on me saying I was invalidating his feelings because he was stressed with the job hunting and house chores. I even tried to explain that I'm also stressed, working 60 hours a week and having all the financial responsibilities on me, plus all the drama with my ex-husband running out of the country and making our divorce even more difficult and expensive. Fast forward to recently, I went on a work trip that I didn't want to attend, but I did because it means more money for us. As soon as I arrived at my final destination I tried to talk to him, but he couldn't talk to me because he had some movie night planned with one of his best friends, so we didn't talk for 3 days because I had no signal and my schedule was crazy, and I've been feeling really tired. Yesterday, he texted me that the dogs were running out of food and asked me to buy more and schedule the delivery for 6 p.m. I did, but the vet changed their food and we had to switch them gradually to the new one. I texted him about how to do it, but he was sounding so confused that I decided to call him and explain it. I even asked him when he would be at home and free to talk. At 8 p.m. on the time he chose I called and he answered the phone with, "Hey, what do you want?" I was taken aback because we hadn't spoken in days, not even text or anything, so I asked what was wrong and why he was treating me like that. He immediately started yelling at me that I was overreacting and that he was in the middle of house chores and computer work. I hung up and texted him that when he calmed down, he could call me and we could talk about what was bothering him with mutual respect and no yelling. He replied that he'd only talk to me if I apologized. I called him back to explain that this felt manipulative, and he hung up on me. I tried again and he asked if I was going to apologize. When I said no, he said we wouldn't be on good terms or speaking until I apologized first. I said that was a really manipulative demand and asked if that was really his decision, and he said yes. I even asked if he knew what that meant and he said yes. So, I emailed property management with him copied letting them know he would be moving out in 15 days. I also emailed him asking for his moving schedule and practical details when we'd close our joint account, when exactly he'd be out so I could have my space back, and who would take care of the dogs while I'm away for work. I even tried to explain to him how his behavior was hurting me, how manipulative it felt, and how it was triggering for me because of the abuse I went through with my ex-husband. His reaction didn't change. Now he's accusing me of throwing him out on the streets with no money or place to go. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA, but you have replaced your previous toxic relationship with another one. Please stick to your guns with this breakup, and take this to therapy so you can recognize the patterns you have fallen into so you can heal and find someone who truly deserves you. Good luck. Commenter 2. NTA. You should stay single for a while. You went from a physically abusive relationship to an emotionally/financially abusive one. You need to talk to a therapist and recognize giant red flags staring you in the face: the homelessness, the joblessness, not contributing, adding a new pet, abusers like add pets and babies so victims feel more trapped. I'm glad you got him out of your home, but don't take in another homosexual, no matter how sad his story is. Isn't it odd that he had to sleep his way into stable housing? 20 plus years on the planet and no friends to take him in. There was a reason why. Commenter 3. BTA. He's a total homosexual, then gaslighting you about it. Nope, gone bye bye boy. Stories number 19. Aita for getting angry at my foster mother's way of fixing me. Okay, so I 17M have lived with foster carers and 38F and Bill 40M for 11 years. The reason I was put into foster care is because of the death of my younger baby sister 14 months when I was 4. To put it lightly, it wasn't exactly natural causes, and was caused by a bio parent if you get what I'm trying to say. And I can vividly remember everything around those circumstances, think about it every day and mourn the loss of my sister. The thing is, this has caused a rather intense reaction to young children. I can't be around kids under the age of 4 approximately without having panic attacks, flashbacks, or screaming fits. I've tried to get professional help but counselors say they aren't trained enough to help me and therapists have extremely long waiting lists. Neither social services nor my carers are willing to pay for private therapy, and I can't afford it on my part-time job. The issue was also mocked by my family for a while since they didn't know the exact circumstances of me going into care, so for years they would trigger me on purpose because they thought it was funny. I've tried building up a tolerance by watching YouTube videos but it isn't much help, although I am almost completely functional in public now. I wasn't until about January this year. In the last few years, the siblings of both N and Bill have had babies. 2 to each sibling, 6 babies total, all under the age of 4, currently the oldest being 3. I can't see these children, so usually end up in a back room somewhere or on the streets walking circles when we go to see the kids / they come to us. And N's mom have decided that since I'm nearly an adult now it's time for me to grow up and fix myself because it's awkward to have a kid that can't see the babies. So over the last 2 years they've begun lying to me. They would take me out, saying we're going one place, then go to the baby's house. They'd then get angry when I'd have panic attacks. Every Christmas they'll say the babies aren't coming round, then shove the babies in my face and get angry when I remove myself from the room, saying I'm ruining Christmas. We'll go to other relatives' houses and then pretend they told me all along that the babies were going to be there. I don't mind going as much, it's just the fact they won't tell me means I'm usually unprepared. For example, one winter I ended up going for a walk in below zero temperatures in a t-shirt because I was told we were going to my uncle's which has rooms I can go in to avoid babies, but we ended up at N's brother's which doesn't have rooms I can go in. I also got in trouble that time for showing and up in front of extended family for my reaction to the babies, aka 3 panic attacks back to back, which is why I then spent hours in the cold. They also didn't tell me another relative was pregnant until she had the baby and we were going to see it. They told me on the car journey to the hospital. I found out today that all this has been part of a plan to secretly try fix my phobia because I'm getting too old for being scared of babies. I've also been told I'm being pathetic, overreacting, being offensive and disturbing the mothers / babies. I got mad. It's not my fault I witnessed the tragedy of my sister's death when I was so young, and lying to me about it only causes me more issues. And said I'm being in awe. So, Aita Reddit, thank you to everyone who's commented. I wasn't expecting such a response to be honest, and it made me cry a bit because sometimes I feel like I'm going mad. I will book an appointment with a GP soon. I'm getting a new social worker and an advocate soon, so we'll talk to them too. I have a job already, but the pay is very minimal, so I'm trying to get a couple more for over the summer, but finding jobs is quite difficult. I am saving to try get out. If it gets far worse than this, I have a friend who will let me stay at hers, but her place is small so it's not the best long term. I'm not sure what will happen from here. Updates will probably be slow, if any. Edit 2. I also feel quite guilty going against my careers because it feels like I owe them. But there's other stuff that's happened too in the last year that could be said to be worse than this, so really it does need reporting. However, A denies all constantly and doesn't believe she's ever in the wrong. She's never apologized for anything. Not really sure how she'd react to me reporting this. Edit 3. Today I get to spend 4 hours on a desk chair crammed in a random corner because the bed I'm staying in at Bill's parents has the cot next to it and the babies are visiting. Edit 4. And I've been kicked out because I'm invading in space. Right after a lecture where she blamed me for my fear. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA. Hope you are saving up so you can move out when you turn 18. I understand them wanting to help you, but they are not doing it the right way. Yes, you should be around kids without having panic attacks. Surprising you with a baby clearly isn't working. Reply, I'm trying. I've got a friend I can move in with if things get real bad, but for now I kinda walk on eggshells. There's more that's not in this post. I'm trying to get a couple more jobs so I can save faster. I've never felt so validated. I thought I was insane for my fear. Commenter 2, NTA. Severe phobias need controlled exposure therapy and possibly medication, with the key word being controlled. Tricking you into seeing these children is the opposite of helping. This seems more like emotional abuse. You shouldn't have to go into the details of your trauma for your foster parents to respect it. I would talk to social services about this to try to get your foster parents to give you the option whether or not to see these kids rather than subjecting everyone to a bad time. Reply, I'm hopefully being assigned an advocate soon. They overlooked me. I was meant to be assigned one at 16. My social worker isn't very good. Eve brought this stuff up before and she wrote it down wrong and then believed Kara's denial and is leaving for maternity in a couple weeks. Can OOP talk with his social worker about this situation? Reply, my social worker isn't very good. It's been brought up before. Kuth contacted her over a different situation that was also described as abuse. But she's being replaced soon. I also kind of feel bad reporting it because in some ways I feel some dedication / that I owe my carers for looking after me. But like every day I more and more realize how bad it's been. The last year has been the worst for it. I had a really bad mental health crisis in December because of it. There's other stuff that's happened that hasn't been detailed here. OOP on receiving outside resources. Reply, yeah, I've been on CMHS radar since I was put in care at 4. They gave me some art therapy when I was about 7, but my carers withdrew me from it because it turned me weird, so now I'm in the fight to get back on their list. Been referred for over 2 years now. Commenter 3. To not at all. You have a clear case of PTSD and your foster parent knows it's a real problem, as they knew it was something too big for social workers to handle, and they are purposely triggering you, removing any form of a safe space that you may have by bringing in the little kids. You're a victim in a terrible messed up situation, not an asshole. Reply, they don't want me diagnosed with anything because it'll give me an excuse to not work as hard or something. They withdrew me from art therapy at 7 because it turned me weird. But thank you so much for your comment. It makes me feel a little bit less insane. Commenter 3, these people aren't fit to be fostering IMHO. Reply, yeah, probably. I think they made it into the system easier because their blood relative's cousin and her husband and social like keeping kids with family. OOP responds to a comment on receiving EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and supplements for mental health and anxiety. Reply, thank you so much for your comment. I'll try the EMDR stuff, hopefully it'll help. I'll also look into supplements to try help. My carers don't like medicating mental health stuff. I've tried asking before, but if I go to a GP they might be able to prescribe me some ick. Where is Bill in all of this? Has OOP spoke with him? Reply, he has a tendency to not stand up to his wife. She also denies a lot to him. There was a situation with some really bad stuff she said to me April 2024 which Bill found out about in October. He was gonna call the social worker about it, but she persuaded him that I was lying to make her look bad. We also had a conversation about 4 hours back wherein tried to accuse me of faking my phobia with Bill present, and all that's happened when I've argued back is that I'm now banned from family holidays. And I got kicked out the house for a few hours. I'm gonna do an update about some of the stuff that's happened in the last 24 hours I think, but at the end of the week once I've also contacted my GP and social worker. Update in comments. Sorry, long reply coming. I was gonna post an update but don't think enough has happened yet to warrant one. On Saturday I had a major argument with my carers. Basically, I was staying at my grandparents' on Bill's side and some babies came over. Usually my safe space in the house away from the kids is the room Ann and Bill were staying in, so I was put in there, on a small desk chair to sit out the day. The room I was sleeping in had the cot and baby changing facilities. However, Ann did not like that it happened to be the room she slept in. So, she had a go at me, saying I was invading her space and kicked me out onto the corridor. Then Bill turned up and they both yelled at me, saying I was faking my fear out of spite because my little brother had been put in the single whilst I had to share with my sister. There's arguments over it, but that's a different story. They also tried to blame my trauma reactions on my grandma. They're not. I went last time I checked. I wasn't the one who fucking baby sister, to which I was kicked out the house and told I'm never seeing my grandparents again, being brought on a family holiday again. Whilst out I tried to call both my social worker and independent worker, as well as mental health helplines such as Childline, Mind, Papyrus, but none picked up. The helplines were experiencing high demand. Papyrus called back but I was on the coast and they couldn't hear me over the wind. A friend offered to send money for me to get home, but I was in the middle of nowhere with no public transport easily accessible without a long hike. The town grandparents live in is very cut off. Apparently whilst I was out, and asked my sister WTF is wrong with name. My granddad ended up taking me out the next day to avoid conflict. Yesterday I was meant to have counseling but my counselor forgot, so I spent an hour sat in the waiting room before deciding to meet up with a friend instead. I ended up dropping out of college this year early. I'm restarting fresh elsewhere next year because of a suicide attempt in December. I decided to do one AS exam so I didn't feel like a complete failure, but I was on reduced timetable to help me recover. So this week is my first week out of college completely, exams ended. Anyway today and came home and told me I'm fat because I spent today tidying my room instead of going out. And also yelled at me because when I loaded the dishwasher it was full, so I missed 2 cereal bowls, and that's not good enough for her even though she doesn't do any cleaning around the house. Anyways, I'm pissed off, tired and barely hanging in. Waiting on a callback from my GP so I can get an appointment. Not been a good couple days. Additional information from OOP on if he has been able to speak with any of his workers. Reply, this is gonna be stupid, but I haven't. I'm absolutely terrified of losing my foster dad tbh. I've spent all week putting it off, but I spoke to my friend's adoptive mother who had been a foster carer for a good decade, and she says if I don't do it, she'll report them. Or I at least need to talk to my foster dad about it and tell him how bad the situation is. She's angry that I'm not in actual therapy, because apparently my carers get money that's supposed to go on stuff like that and like everything else too. With the training she gets she should know not to say half the shit she does. I spoke to my siblings. Both siblings confirm now independently that they've heard plans to force expose me to babies to try to fix me. If necessary I can get statements from friends. I have a quite decent backlog of evidence. The middle sibling is pretty much already pre-planning for a few years in residential care. My younger brother is scared, but angry too. I'm fairly certain at this point he has fairly bad depression and an eating disorder, both of which aren't addressed. So I'm going to talk to my foster dad and basically present it and give him an ultimatum. I don't want to lose him. But if stuff doesn't change or he makes a single move against me, I have the independent reviewing officer in my contacts and I will call her. I might do anyways. But I'm scared. Update 2. After that initial post there was a major argument where my foster mom attempted to blame my fear on myself, saying I was doing it to attention seek, and after that she said I would no longer be allowed to see this side of the family. Conveniently, last week when they were visiting family, my foster mom arranged an orthodontist appointment that meant I couldn't go, in complete honesty, a blessing, because whilst I really want to see my grandparents still, I didn't particularly want to go through what had happened the previous holiday again. I was left behind with my uncle. My old college spoke to my independent reviewing officer sorta like an outside social worker who isn't meant to side with either the parents or kids from my understanding, a sorta neutral person. There was stuff my carers were telling workers in meetings that wasn't correlating with what my college had been told by myself, so they reported it. My little sister also reported some stuff, so in the end I didn't bring up issues, it was others around me. So today, the IRO came to speak to me alone. I reported all the baby situation stuff, and discovered my carers have in fact been suggested to take therapy training to help me handle my trauma, but had turned it down, believing they didn't need it. I also reported some other stuff as well. I now know my options, and in 5 months I turn 18. I believe the best option now is for me to move out at 18, which will be financially supported by the local council and social services. I currently don't have a proper job because my national insurance number hasn't been sorted yet, so no one will hire me, but I should be getting it in the next few weeks. Hopefully then I can get a job which will help with moving out. From what I understand, with my situation the local council will cover rent if it's under £90 per week through a social housing scheme, then I get about £75 a week for food and stuff. If I want somewhere with a higher rent, I cover the costs. I'll also be getting universal credit once I turn 18. I believe a part-time job will be best to make living more financially comfortable even with the monetary support though. But yeah, update. Sorry it's been a while, and thank you to everyone who commented on my original post with help and sympathy. If anyone has any questions I can answer them. Hopefully things will get better now. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, at least she editor's note, and will be on record for being horrible and hopefully no more kids will be placed with her. Good luck op. Reply, I don't think she'd take more kids anyway, she's a family guardian so she's biologically related to me and my siblings and has expressed before she never actually wanted kids and took us in out of guilt. But at least yeah, in the small chance she tried taking in anyone else, it'd be refused. Commenter 2, firstly, where is your social worker in this? There is semi-independent accommodation similar to shared flats that you can be referred to. Your IRO's job is to ensure that everyone in your professional network is doing their job. If your SW won't refer you, speak to your IRO. Second, do you know the name of your foster carer's supervising social worker? I really think a standards of care investigation needs to be started on your FCs, they are not equipped to meet your needs and are not keeping up with training by actively turning it down. I consider therapeutic training and trauma training to be basic training for FCs. When do you turn 18? You'll be allocated a PA then who can probably help navigate housing more. Your local authority is your corporate parent and they must accommodate you and support you until 21. This sounds like an awful situation to be in, and if a young person came to me at work with you've posted, immediate action would be taken. I've been working with foster carers for 8 years in England. DM me if you want to chat more. Reply, I currently don't have a social worker, I have a manager covering for a social worker, she's on maternity and he's away on annual leave. My carer's supervising social worker is on sick leave and we've only just been assigned a cover, can't remember her name. The IRO is contacting her about the situation though. I have the contact details for my PA but I've never actually spoken to her. She was meant to turn up a week ago but never did and isn't responding to messages. My IRO is gonna chase her up too. I've heard about semi-independent, but don't you have to move out of it at 18? I turn 18 in January, am not sure if there's any point moving twice in the next few months. Commenter 3, wow, your foster parents have no business being foster parents. They shoot down efforts to help you thinking they know better, which they don't. And you know they get money for taking care of you, to them you're just a warm body. What crappy people. Well, it sounds like things are going to turn around and you're going to land on your feet, and that's good. Get therapy when you can, hopefully sooner rather than later, and sure it's going to take a long time and a lot of therapy, and I wish you best of luck. Reply, yeah, and my foster mom since making the post said she might be forced to charge me rent when I turn 18 because they'll be given less funding to cover me. If I'm gonna have to pay something either way, I'd rather live by myself. OOP on his siblings, and if they are okay. Younger sister has been mentioned in prior posts. Reply, both siblings are in my household with me. My sister, I believe, is planning on going into some kind of semi-independent living once she's 16. I was never given the option because everyone thought our living situation was fine. She hasn't considered herself a part of the family for a while now and isn't home often. I'm not sure what will happen to my little brother. Stories number 20. My direct report complained about a VP behavior and got fired after. One of my direct reports 28, woman complained about the VP's 47, man behavior in an anonymous survey. Yes, before anyway says anything, we can perfectly see who wrote what in the survey, and management prefers saying it is anonymous so people can air their concerns. This complaint got me by surprise and it was pretty harsh, but sounded pretty serious not to listen to. I brought it up in the team without mentioning her name, my mistake, as I could tell she was not happy at all I mentioned it there. My intention was to let them know I was there to talk if they needed anything, but I achieved the opposite. Management and HR were aware of it, but preferred to silence her instead because they wanted to protect the VP, and found an excuse to fire her instead. We did not have any investigation or follow-up, as the CEO considered the VP very valuable and did not want to lose him during the process. Now my direct report is suing the company for it and I feel quite bad I did not do anything about it. Looks like management is going to be fucked up. We might lose the VP after all, and we will get really bad reputation in the sector if it spreads. Should I apologize? What to do? Edit, thank you all for your responses. It's good to see different points of view. A lot of things have been really wrong here, I made a lot of mistakes. I know she did not deserve any of this, and the least I could do is to apologize and help during the lawsuit to favor her by just telling the truth as it is. I can't imagine what she could have gone through, and I am not someone who tolerates unjust ice. For the ones worried about my position, I have already a new job lined up. Stories number 21. Aita for suspecting my wife of doing something awful at her friend's bachelorette week in Mexico. TLDR, OP's wife goes to Mexico with friends and spends no money and posts no pictures. OP suspects she cheated. It turns out she is an incredibly naive person who went on her first vacation as an adult and saw an older man being friendly with her and trusted him. She ends up trapped in his room and is SA'd. OP begins the divorce process, wife posts her story to Reddit, they talk more, talk to the man's wife to learn about his MO, and determine that OP's wife was a victim and, again, extremely naive, which comes across in her posts. They spends months reconciling and eventually move to a new state and have another child while being appreciative of the Reddit post as it forced them to fix their relationship. Aita for suspecting my wife of doing something awful at her friend's bachelorette week in Mexico. She spent virtually zero money and took no pictures. TLDR, OP's wife went to Mexico with friends but spent no money, posted no pictures, and had little contact with OP. OP thinks she may have cheated. She is very distant upon returning home. OP finds messages synced to her iPad from a man talking about using Signal to communicate. OP's sister helps him research who the man was and what happened. They concluded the wife cheated. The wife refuses to explain what really happened. The abridged post is included here. I am in the middle of probably the biggest crisis of my adult life and I can barely think, so I apologize in advance if this comes across as really weird or ramble. Why? My wife went to Mexico last week for a friend's bachelorette party, and aside for the plane ticket, the hotel, and the first day's food and drinks, she didn't spend a penny all week. I mean, on the credit card it's as clear as day that on Monday up until about 9 p.m. she was buying dinner, stuff at the hotel shop, drinks at the bar, souvenirs, and then at 9 p.m. she didn't spend another cent the entire week until she was at her layover airport in Dallas. She says it's because her friend took over and paid for everything. I guess this is plausible, but it still is giving me a funny feeling. What is worse is that my wife is a person who posts her entire life on Instagram, on TikTok, mostly Instagram, but if she does anything from get a latte to picking the kids up at school, she will post it either as a picture or as a story. The last thing she posted on TikTok was that trend of people jumping into their vacation from the airport, and after that her social media is blank. I was kind of keeping an eye on it because I was excited for her to go on the trip, and again I guess it's plausible, but it gives me a funny feeling. When she got home I said I can't wait to see all the pics she took, and she really blew me off and said that she just didn't feel like taking pics that week. She has also been incredibly distant, and last night she said she just felt like sleeping on the couch because the AC hits better. This is 100% true, but I swear I heard her talking on the phone in the middle of the night. When I got up to check on her I accidentally tripped over the dog and made a huge racket, so when I got downstairs she appeared to be asleep. I brought all of this up this morning and said I'm not accusing her of anything, but all this put together is making me feel uneasy. I wasn't trying to bait her or fight with her, just get my feelings on the table. She said you are a major fucking asshole for bringing this up on her first day back at work. I said I wasn't trying to pry, just communicating with her, and she said your communication is prying and I am not discussing this with you ever again. She then took the kids to summer camp and left. Edit. So I realized that her texts probably synced to her iPad. There was an iMessage at 9:15 the night she got to the resort from a number with no contact info that said okay, I'll meet you in the lobby. Is the app you said Signal? I looked up Signal and it's kind of like WhatsApp. The iPad doesn't have Signal on it. Edit 2. My sister is coming over and she's an insane internet sleuth and is relentless when it comes to this cheating stuff. I'm going to probably stop responding for a while so we can talk and she can do her thing. Thanks for everyone and the nice comments and the reality check. It's not looking good. Edit 3, she cheated. My sister was able to get lots of info from the real estate guy and my wife denied it at first but then admitted it. Sorry it took so long to update, but I'm numb. Have literally zero idea what to do now. Edit 5, I know people really want updates and we've been talking, arguing, screaming, threatening all day long. I'm more confused than I was this morning, that's for sure. But I'm also confused, exhausted, sad, upset, nervous, and I don't know what to do. I did make a preliminary appointment with a family law attorney tomorrow to talk about protecting assets and how to navigate the legal way ahead regardless of what I chose to do. I will say that there's S subreddit that this was cross-posted to, and it may be the most toxic group of people I've ever seen online, and I feel really bad for those people. As for the privacy issues, no one has figured out who we are. That's not a challenge, by the way. I'm very tired and I doubt people are still invested, but if there's still interest I can update either on this post or a new in a few days. I'm really hoping to sleep tonight. My sister still has the kids and they are having a blast and went to the lake with her boyfriend's family today, so I'm glad they are in good hands. New update. TLDR, OP is getting a legal separation from his wife. They begin mediation to be better co-parents while separated. Further internet sleuthing determined the AP has multiple judgments, liens, and 6 kids from 4 mothers. They reached out to his wife but did not get a response. Abridged version. Good morning everyone. I know it's been a while, but as I'm sure you can imagine, this has been the worst week of my life and it's been an absolute whirlwind of activity trying to get things set up in a life that I don't even really recognize anymore. First of all, I am now in the process of getting a legal separation from my wife with the aim of getting divorced. She and I both want to take the process very slow so it's fair to everyone. I do have a personal lawyer who is handling the separation, but even she recommends that it will be cheaper and easier for us to do a mediated divorce. The lawyer has a colleague who has this sort of package deal where we will work with a certified counselor while we are meeting with the mediation lawyer to handle the legal aspects. The goal is to learn to be co-parents and friendly while go through the breakup. I know my wife is hoping to see the counselor with the aim of reconciling. I am doing the counseling so I can learn how to treat her with some sort of respect as the mother of my kids for their benefit. I can't possibly see reconciling, but I guess stranger things have happened. My sister, did some research on the guy and he's an absolute piece of shit. He has judgments and liens against him all over the country. He has 6 kids with 4 different women and is delinquent on child support on most of them. It seems like his MO is to just wait until the kids turn 18 and hope they stop coming after him. And this is the guy my wife picked to ruin everything for. My sister did get in touch with his current wife and said that she has pics and text messages that prove he was cheating and so far has not heard back from her. Who knows what's going on with that? My assumption is it's happened so many times, she expects it and or tolerates it, but maybe we'll hear back from her. My wife and I are still in the house together until the separation is official, and we may continue to be even after the legal separation is done. I just don't know, and I figure as long as we can be friendly to each other then it's okay. I had to go away on business last week, and when I got back on Saturday it was pretty clear the fight in her was gone and she wanted to talk and accept full responsibility and was willing to come clean about the whole thing. I told her I really didn't need to hear any more because her affair partner had confessed the whole thing and even sent pics. I think her thing is that she's utterly humiliated and has been very quiet, even obsequious as her general manner around the house. It's not really what I want because I didn't get married to have a servant, and the change in her normal fiery and funny personality is only a reminder that something is really wrong. Kids are doing fine, they are spending a lot of time with my sister and her boyfriend and his family, so hopefully looking back this will just be the summer before their parents got divorced and are missing the turmoil in the house. The wife responds, I am the wayward wife whose infidelity story has gone semi-viral on Reddit. I am now posting about it to get the story straight. I am definitely not the same person who posted the original story. TLDR, the wife responds. She agrees she cheated and then explains what happened. OP and her had a fight on the way to the airport and she was mad at OP. It was her first vacation since they got married and had kids, so she overdid it when she arrived. An older man approached her while she was drunk and they talked a lot. The man separates her from her friends and pays for her excursions and drinks the following days and eventually invites her to his room after getting her drunk. He grinds on her while clothed, kisses her body, and when he touches himself she freaks out and tries to leave. He convinces her to stay to ensure he doesn't choke on his vomit while wearing a CPAP mask. She sleeps in a different bed, flees in the morning, blocks all contact with him, and cries the entire trip home while being unable to talk to her husband about what happened. Abridged version. I would imagine a lot of you have seen the posts of a wife cheating while in Mexico that have somewhat blown up. I am going to give my side of the story. First of all, I want to say that I cheated. I am not making any excuses. I am not asking for forgiveness from my husband or Reddit at large. I am offering my perspective as to why it happened and maybe, just maybe, sleep after 5 days after getting this off my chest. I have read all of my husband's posts and every single one of the thousands of replies he's gotten over the past 2 weeks. I don't know if he knows this or not. We are in the house together, but aside from some logistical details about life, we haven't really spoken. He doesn't want to talk to me, and he certainly doesn't want to hear about my trip. That's totally fair. I say this because while we have some differing perspectives, nothing he has said has been untrue. Note, she spends a few paragraphs describing OP's positive and negative qualities. On the day I was supposed to leave, I was officially on a vacation day. I work in admin in education and got an email from out district about a parent complaint that could not wait. There were several errands I was supposed to run, but I spent all that time on the phone and responding to emails. One of those errands was depositing a small check for my dad and my husband's business. I totally forgot it. When my husband got home to drive us to the airport, I could see how disappointed he was in me. He didn't yell at me, but he made several biting comments in front of my friends about how much extra work I'd caused him. I felt like I was being scolded by a parent. When we got to the terminal, I walked around to kiss him goodbye at the driver's side window. He acted like he didn't see me and drove off. I was devastated. I'd kissed him goodbye on hundreds of business trips, flights, reserve weekends and deployments, and the only time I'd ever gone away on my own, he was so upset about a $100 check that he wouldn't kiss me goodbye. I literally cried from that second until about 10 minutes before we landed in Mexico. The flight attendants saw me and started giving me free bottles of booze and were so sweet. Which I guess probably wasn't the best thing because I was pretty drunk all that evening. Here's where things go off the rails. I was very drunk. I was on my first ever trip as an adult with 2 friends who were only too happy to hear me man bash my husband. We were approached by an older man who probably has done this a few times, and he told us that dinner and drinks are on him for the rest of the night. I was just in the perfect mood to accept. My friends ended up going to bed about 10 or so, and I didn't want the good times to stop. He and I moved to a beach bar where I unloaded everything that I said above. He flat out told me that he would make sure I didn't spend a dime that week and he was happy to show me a good time. I was definitely white girl wasted and telling him way more than I should, but he did not object to walking me back to my room and leaving for the night when I was going to throw up. Fairly early Tuesday he sent me a text yes on Signal saying that he had arranged parasailing for the three of us. I was excited but my friends were starting to get a little spidey tingle that something was up. They did go but they said they wouldn't accept anything more from him. We did some girl stuff that afternoon but I was a little annoyed with them because they wanted to stay in their rooms and sleep so I ended up going to dinner with this man. I did not drink that night and actually ended up in my own bed fairly early. Again, there was an early morning text from him and this time it was ATVs. I said that I would go but my friends were not. ATVs were okay but I was pretty happy to get back to the resort but we really drank a lot. In the early evening, he said he had something he really wanted to show me in his room. Everything in my soul was telling me not to go but I went. We were lying face down on his bed looking at his iPad and he got up and all of a sudden I could feel him kissing the back of my legs, pretty close to my swimsuit. I would consider this cheating absolutely, 100%, without question. My brain was racing, and I was in that moment where it physically felt okay, but I was drunk, and I was very afraid to say no because he was so much bigger than I was, and I felt like I had gotten myself into the situation. Somehow, I rationalized that if he was only going to go down on me then I would be okay but if he asked me to reciprocate in any way, I was going to have a major issue on my hands. I would say that maybe lasted about 5 to 10 minutes but he only kissed me on top of my clothes and nothing came off. He then rearranged on the bed and started rubbing himself on my outstretched hand on the bed. All of a sudden it got very real because it made me realize he was expecting me to reciprocate. I told him I had to go. He promised me it wouldn't happen again and said to please stay in the room because he was so drunk that he was worried about choking on his vomit. I told him that I would stay because I was worried about him but if he made one more advance towards me I would probably can't say but it had to do with his eyes, scream as loud as I could and call security. I fell asleep on the other bed. I left in the morning as he was waking up and he was profusely sorry for what had happened. I said I was too and that was the last time I spoke with him. He did send me a Signal message on Saturday that his family had arrived and asked if I wanted to meet them which literally made me gag but I never responded. I spent that entire day praying about what I had done. I have never felt as much shame as I have that day. I envisioned my entire life going down the tubes for 5 minutes of pleasure. The next morning after that I told my friends what had happened. They basically told me that I had to come clean with my husband or they were going to tell him for me. I promised I would tell him. If my timeline is right, that was Friday and I looked into booking a flight to come home early but for some reason it wasn't really possible, so we made the best of it until we left Monday. Again, I cried the entire flight home, nervous as a dog trying to shit a razor blade, knowing that I had to tell my husband of 10 years boyfriend of 19 years that I had done something awful. He and the kids picked me up and of course I didn't say anything then. After the kids were plugged in, I told him I had something I had to tell him. He came back at me with hey I noticed you didn't spend any money on the trip. Do you have any receipts I can look at to make sure it's not an issue with the credit card? I love my husband, but I have never felt an instant hot poker of hatred towards a person more than I did him in that moment. He didn't kiss me goodbye over a stupid check, he hadn't seemed that upset that we hadn't talked while I was gone, he hadn't even asked how my trip went and the first thing he wanted to talk about was making sure his books were in order. Both husband and wife worked together offline to solve their problems and wife posts again later that day. TLDR, the replies to their posts helped them to better understand each other. Husband is mad at how naive his wife was but understands she was SA'd. Wife admits she needs to grow up. They are going to work to save their marriage. Hi everyone, I am going to post an update for both of us and then we are going to get off Reddit for a while. Note, she posted to Reddit another 30 times after this. I know he didn't expect his initial post to blow up like it did, let alone his second. I never expected to get so much traction on my follow-ups. We have gotten so many genuinely thoughtful and helpful comments from people who obviously cared about the lives of two strangers. If we end up staying together and I'm going to be honest and optimistic and say that I think we will there are a few of you who had the perfect words at the perfect time. I hope that we have both thanked you personally but if not please know that I will be eternally grateful. Some of you gave me some tough love which was I needed to hear. Some of you gave him some advice about communicating with me and he followed through. Again, a deepest thank you. Obviously, we have a path ahead of us and neither one of us know where it's going to go. We both have agreed to meet with the mediation team tomorrow. He did file separation paperwork last week, so we need to meet with the legal side of the team to figure out how to proceed with that. We have also agreed that we will approach the counseling side with an open mind but with the hopes of reconciling. Things may change of course, but I am not willing to look down to the movie of our life 20 years from now and say that I didn't fight for someone I truly love, and I know in his heart truly loves me. We had a really nice conversation this afternoon and he said that he isn't so mad at me for what happened in that room, he understands how awful that must have been. He is mad at me because me being so naive, and me being so trusting has gotten me into so many of these situations. I'm lucky I got away with it and it too so long before one finally went bad. He feels like I never listened to him and because I'm a balloon head, trust me, it sounds sweeter when he says it than it looks when I type it. He's terrified that there may be a day where he has to tell our kids that I won't be their mom anymore because I trusted someone when I shouldn't have. At 32, I've got a lot of growing up to do. We also talked at great length about my issues, and he is going to start looking to see if he can hire an engineer to take his place at he and my dad's company. It will mean we will lose a source of income, but he'll still be on the board and will still be able to provide direction and expertise, but the day-to-day stuff will be dramatically less. As his biggest fan in the world, I am so glad he's not going to quit flying because I know he loves it, and frankly seeing him a flight suit is the sexiest thing in the world. In fact, we have kid number 2 because I got to do a spouse incentive ride when he got checked out in the H-60, and seeing him work the controls and talk so confidentially on the radios made my ovaries burst. I would never want to take that away from him or me, frankly. As a huge missing puzzle piece, I finally got to see the signal messages that my sister-in-law was able to get from the guy in Mexico when she did her PI job. I can say that he didn't exaggerate or lie about anything, and therefore there's no difference between his version of events and mine. However, his choice of words were that of a guy who was thinking I was contacting him again because there was a shot. For example, his message about the Wednesday night event says, "I had such an amazing time with you in my room. Your company was just what I needed and will sick never forget it," so I can see why my husband freaked out. The actual events were that he put his mouth and genitals on my body without consent, and after he apologized, I stayed to make sure his CPAP mask didn't fill up with vomit. I don't want to minimize anything because I put myself in the position. Thank you again to those of you who were thoughtful, sincere and even a little direct. You probably saved our marriage. All remaining posts are by the wife where she gives near daily updates of what is going on. The husband updates his posts to say they are working things out. There are lots of posts to view, but this one provided more information about the original incident. TLDR, they spoke to the man's wife, clarified exactly what happened in Mexico, offered to pay her for the excursion the man paid for, and the man's wife says she is planning on leaving him. Probably the update everyone is most curious about. Yesterday I spoke with the guy wife.